Part 18. Swallowed Star, My Understanding is Beyond Belief. Author, Bo Yoon Song. Chapter 171. Rorschach entered his room and took a look. After having nothing to do, he went out and went to room 3 and knocked on the door. Luo Feng came to open the door. What's wrong? I'm bored, let's go shopping in the square, Rorschach said. Okay. Luo Feng closed the door and went out with Luo Xia. Halfway through, I saw other people from Ganu Universe Kingdom. Everyone seemed to be unable to stay in the room and wanted to go shopping. A group of people walked out of the building. It's from Ganu Universe country. That's wrong, June. I heard that he has the ability to hit the top 10 in the overall ranking. He is a very powerful guy, and his understanding of the original laws of Earth and space is very high. This time Ganu Universe country is very powerful. Rong Jun and Luo Xia have appeared. They are both powerful guys. I hope you don't meet them early. In the square, the talented young people from other universe countries were talking in low voices when they saw Rorschach and the others coming out of the building. This made the other people who were walking with Rorschach feel very uncomfortable. After leaving the building, they separated. When Luo Xia and Luo Feng walked in the square, they could see all kinds of geniuses. Wow, that girl looks like an angel from mythology, so beautiful. Rorschach saw a beautiful girl wearing a white feathered coat. She had 2 wings on her back and a crystal between her eyebrows. She looked extremely holy and pure, like an angel descending from heaven to earth. That's a member of the Mengloi tribe. His name seems to be Ai Chen, and his nickname is Light Sword. I heard that his strength can reach the top 10 in the overall ranking. Luo Feng glanced at the girl, casually told her information, and then educated Luo Xia, don't talk about others behind their backs. It's not polite. I know, brother. Rorschach nodded, and then he really stopped talking. The beautiful girl named Ai Chen seemed to notice the sight of Luo Xia and Luo Feng. She turned her head slightly and glanced at them. Then she stopped paying attention and stood there minding her own business. She didn't know who was there. Think about something. Luo Xia and Luo Feng walked around the square casually and met many geniuses in the information. These geniuses were undoubtedly very powerful. Some of them could not be seen from their appearance, while others made people feel extraordinary just by their appearance. For example, Galsi is covered in black robes. He is 3 to 4 meters tall, has a very thin body, and is shrouded in a black robe. His whole body looks like an evil wizard in a novel about Earth. This Galsi is nicknamed Phantom Demon and is very good at illusions. During the trials of their universe country, they didn't touch their hands during the whole process. Just one glance at their opponent could make them fall into an illusion and die. It's a real see who dies, killing people with your eyes, very scary. The 2 brothers also saw the Prince of Mankistar. This prince was complained by Rorschach as Vegeta. Luo Feng couldn't laugh or cry after hearing this. The Prince of Mankistar is much taller than Prince Vegeta. And most importantly, the Mankistar was not destroyed. Suddenly, the whole square fell silent. Everyone in the square seemed to be aware of it and looked towards a building in the distance. I saw a young man in white walking out. He was handsome, the kind of person who could make any girl on earth blush just by looking at him. But this face was cold and expressionless, as cold as if someone owed him money. Carrying a bloody sword on his back, he walked slowly into the square, his eyes scanning all the geniuses in the square. Grim Reaper. Death Bolan. It's him. This is the same existence as Rorschach that can compete for the first place in the overall ranking. Many people began to whisper. Luo Xia narrowed his eyes and said to Luo Feng next to him, brother, this guy is so pretentious. He appears so well and makes me feel uncomfortable. Luo Feng looked at his younger brother dumbfounded, what cards do you want? Luo Xia lowered his head and looked at himself and said, do you think I should also change into white, then come out with a long sword on my back, stand in the middle of the square, and let everyone exclaim that a handsome man has descended from the sky. Ha ha ha, it's so funny, I can't say it anymore. He himself made a joke to the end. Luo Feng didn't hold back and started laughing. So, when all the geniuses were looking at Bolan with fiery eyes, the two brothers Luo Xia and Luo Feng laughed out loud as if no one else was watching. Bolan, the god of death, noticed the movement on Rorschach's side. He glanced at it expressionlessly, then withdrew his gaze and walked towards a restaurant. According to some immortal beings, Bolan, the god of death, is the only two most incredible genius in this genius war. Even in the previous genius battles, such a perverted character has not appeared for a long, long time. Many immortal beings believe that in this genius battle, the only one who can compare with the god of death, Bolan, is the equally perverted Rorschach. Elder brother. A beautiful girl with long flowing green hair and secret green lines on her face looked at Bolan, the god of death, and whispered to her brother next to her. Is he Bolan, the god of death? Is it the teacher that the teacher thinks we have no chance of defeating? A young man who looked almost like the girl stared fixedly at Bolan, the god of death. It's him, a star level, who understands the original laws of space to an extremely profound abnormal existence. Even if he ranks first in the genius competitions that have been held in the past million years, there is no one like him. He has been so perverted. As the young man spoke, he looked at Rorschach, who was laughing in the distance, and continued, even that Rorschach will probably not be a match for Bolan, the god of death. The girl looked at Rorschach and said, this Rorschach has been recognized by the law of the origin of wind at the stellar level. He is also extremely powerful. The teacher also said that we may not be able to win against this Rorschach. The green-haired young man said, it is indeed abnormal to be recognized by the original law at the stellar level. But if you want to win in this genius battle, the most important thing is to understand the upper law. The difficulty of comprehending the upper law is comparable to that of the lower law. It's so difficult to comprehend. This Rorschach should put most of his energy and time into understanding the original law of wind in order to be recognized by the original law. But in this way, he still has extra energy and time to understand the higher origin law. He glanced at Rorschach again, and then said to his sister, Qianshui, although the teacher said that, we still have a chance to defeat Rorschach. So even if we can't defeat Bolan, the god of death, we still have to fight for the second place. Third place. Qianshui understands. The girl nodded. As time passed, a large number of immortal beings from various universe countries gathered in restaurant number 1, which was inaccessible to the contestants. They sat together in twos and threes, chatting and talking. When Rorschach and the others were attracted by Death God Bolan, these immortal beings also noticed Death God Bolan. One of the immortal beings looked at the figure of Death God Bolan entering the restaurant and said softly, this young man named Bolan is only astral level and has such a strong understanding of the original laws of space. Maybe 100 epochs later, he will become a space master. Venerable space master? Is this too much? He is still far from becoming a space venerable. No matter how many immortal beings practice for hundreds of millions of years, they cannot become a space venerable. He is a star-level little guy. It is too early to say this now. Yes, how can it be so easy to achieve the space master? This little guy is still far from being able to physically teleport through space, let alone become a space master. Too much flattery. Bolan is indeed a genius. If you say that he can become a powerful immortal comparable to us, I agree. But wanting to become a space lord is too. It seemed that the 4 words Venerable Space Master touched a large group of immortal inverse scales around them, and they all opposed it one by one. Haha, what are you talking about? It's so lively. A loud voice echoed throughout the first and second floors of restaurant number 1. For a moment, all the immortals in the restaurant looked in the direction of the sound. I saw a man wearing ordinary blue robes standing at the main entrance of the restaurant. He has a handsome face and his head is covered with purple scales. The man looked at the many immortals in the restaurant with a smile in his eyes. It can be found that this man is standing there as if he does not exist. If he does not make a sound, I am afraid that the immortals in the restaurant will not be able to detect his arrival and existence. The man gave people the impression that he was not in the same time and space as everyone else. Wow! The moment they saw the man clearly, all the immortals in the restaurant stood up and bowed to the man. Your Majesty. The man smiled slightly and said to the immortals, this time, our virtual universe company is holding a genius competition, and all of your major universe nations have given their full support. On behalf of our virtual universe company, I would like to express my gratitude to all of your major universe nations. This is what we should do. The immortals quickly responded respectfully. The man in green robe just came over to say hello. He nodded slightly and said to the immortals, well, you continue to chat, I will go and gather those young people first. After saying that, he turned and left. After the green-robed man walked away, the immortals in the restaurant dared to discuss in low voices. It's actually the Lord of Nine Swords. I heard that Venerable Nine Swords was in a secret realm of the universe within the territory of the Machine Tribe recently. I didn't expect that he would be the one to preside over this genius battle. Speaking of which, hundreds of thousands of epochs ago, the Nine Swords Venerable was still a star at that time. He also participated in that genius competition and won the first place. At that time, the shock that the Nine Swords Venerable brought to the entire universe was incredible. Lower than the young man named Bolan right now. Yes. It's really touching. Although that Bolan's talent is good, he still needs to go a long way to become a supreme master. Achieving immortality alone is full of ups and downs, and a large number of world masters have fallen at the final threshold. Not to mention the space lords who are 10,000 times more difficult, 1,000,000 times more difficult. These immortals are very sad. They have extremely high authority in their respective universe countries. They are all top-notch figures under the leadership of the Universe King. They can destroy some planets and stars with just a flip of their hands. However, these immortals cannot compare with His Holiness. If they can become a respected person, they can occupy a huge star field and build their own universe country. For example, the Venerables of space can move around and change space with just a wave of their hands. The planets in front of the Venerables are like glass marbles that they can play with their fingers. After Luo Xia and Luo Feng walked around the square, they found a restaurant to sit down and try the drinks and food. Just as they were eating and drinking, a voice suddenly invaded their consciousness. All participants in the 1008 universe countries, gather in the central square. Rorschach was slightly startled. He felt as if his soul had been given an order, and his body stood up involuntarily and walked towards the square. The same goes for the eldest brother Luo Feng sitting opposite. But compared to Rorschach, Luo Feng's consciousness and soul were suppressed at this time, like a puppet. Rorschach is conscious, but unable to control his body. When all the participants came to the square, the power in the darkness completely dissipated, and everyone woke up. What a terrifying power! Luo Xia whispered in her heart and looked towards the front of the team, the man in the green robe. Behind the green-robed man stood immortal beings from 1008 cosmic nations. These immortal beings naturally exuded coercion, which made the shocked geniuses dare not say anything. After a moment of shock, they all fell silent. Welcome to join the Peak Genius competition held by our virtual universe company. The green-robed man flew into the air so that everyone could see him. His words spread clearly throughout the square and into the ears of Luo Xia and others. Everyone looked at the man in green robes. Everyone has a feeling. This man in green robes seems to be in front of them, but he seems to be in different time and space, which makes people feel very awkward. Lord Nine Swords looked at the people below and continued with a gentle voice. The Genius battle held this time, like previous ones, has a total of 1008 cosmic nations participating, and a total of more than 1 million geniuses have been elected here. Our virtual universe company will select 1,000 of the strongest people among you and absorb them into the core of our virtual universe company. More than 1 million of you are vying for these 1,000 spots. Here are the rules. Tomorrow, all of you will enter a trial space respectively. Our virtual universe company has prepared more than 1 million trial spaces for you, one for each of you. There are a total of 7 trial towers in the trial space. Each trial tower has 7 floors. The trial content for everyone is exactly the same. You have to start from the first trial tower, clear the 7th floor of the first trial tower, and then break through the second trial tower, until you die and are kicked out of the trial space. Calculate points based on your performance in the trial space. Those with points ranging from 1st to 100th will be directly recruited as core members of our virtual universe company without further screening, and will receive 100 quotas. Number 101 to 7,300, these 7,200 people will have a decisive battle in the arena to compete for 900 places. As for the participants after 7,300, all will be eliminated. The man in green robe slowly finished explaining the rules of tomorrow's trial. Many geniuses below were completely stunned after listening to the rules. In this trial space, millions of people will be eliminated. Early the next morning, as soon as Rorschach exited the state of cultivation, he heard a clear and sweet voice that spread throughout the entire plane. Everyone, please be prepared. A collective teleportation will be carried out soon to send all participants to their respective trial spaces. Not long after the sound spread, an invisible force came and teleported away all the geniuses participating in the battle. Rorschach only felt slightly dazed. After calming down, he found that he was standing on a huge meteorite that was nearly 1 million kilometers long. On this meteorite, 7 trial towers were built. Each trial tower is like a mountain, tall and towering, entrenched in different directions of the meteorite. Rorschach looked down at his wrist, and immediately a projection popped up with his message written on it. Participant, Logos Kinwu Universe Kingdom. Points, 0. Rank, none. The trial space where it is located, No 027-9379. Note, there are 7 trial towers in the trial space, and each trial tower has 7 floors. For the first trial tower, you can get up to 10,000 points on each floor. If you succeed on all 7 floors, you can get up to 70,000 points. For the second trial tower, you can get up to 100,000 points on each floor. If you succeed on all 7 floors, you can get up to 700,000 points. For the 7th trial tower, you can get up to 10 billion points on each floor. If you succeed on all 7 floors, you can get up to 70 billion points. Note, upon death, the trial ends. There are 2 ways to pass each layer. The first one, kill all the targets on this level to get the highest points and be directly transported to the next level. The second type, if all targets are not killed, after 10 days, the participants are still alive and will be directly transferred to the next level to continue the trial. The trial ends when all participants are dead. Determine the final ranking. Below, attached is the ranking list. Rorschach read the rules and muttered, "This is very similar to the trial tower in the virtual space on Earth, however, the trial ends when everyone dies. Do you think no one can pass all trial towers?" His eyes lit up, "Why not give it a try? 7 trial towers, see if I can clear them all." Rorschach walked towards the first trial tower, he selected his armor, weapons, etc., and then stepped into it. The first floor of the first tower, 10,000 blood-haired mammoths. Every time you kill a beast, you get 1 point. If you kill them all, you get 10,000 points and teleport directly to the second floor. If you don't kill them all, and survive until the 10th day, you will be teleported directly to the second floor, die, and the trial is over. Roar. The scene in front of Rorschach changed, and in an instant, 10,000 huge beasts appeared. They were densely packed, like a tide and flood. In the virtual universe, in the central square, 1008 immortal beings sat casually everywhere. The elimination of the trial space is not publicly broadcast, only the changes in the ranking list are announced to the public. Only when the final arena showdown comes will it be publicly broadcast. However, the immortal beings of the major cosmic countries have the authority to watch the trial of each participant. The immortal being called 13 from Ganu Universe was watching the trial situation of the participants from Ganu Universe at this time. He clicked on Logosia's trial live broadcast, and saw that Logosia had just entered the first floor of the first trial tower, and in front of him, 10,000 blood-haired mammoths had just been refreshed. Logosia faced the blood-haired mammoths that were like a tide, holding the 5th level weapon Meteor Sword. Suddenly, the sword light flashed, and the breeze blew. The great immortal being 13 narrowed his eyes slightly in surprise. This is... Boom! In his sight, on the screen, 10,000 blood-haired mammoths were beheaded by Qingfeng in an instant. As soon as they were refreshed, they immediately fell to the ground and turned into headless corpses. The whole picture was like Logosia playing a game, turning on the full-screen monster clearing cheat, which was very exaggerated and shocking. In less than a second, Logosia was teleported to the second floor of the first trial tower. The second floor is a 10,000-headed 9-headed python. Just like the first floor, Logosia struck with his sword again, and the breeze blew, and the 9-headed pythons were immediately beheaded and turned into corpses. The third floor is 1,000 metal life Tuologo warriors. The fourth floor is 1,000 strange beasts Feiho. The fifth floor is 108-meter-high humanoid mechanical puppets. The sixth floor is 10 star beasts Kang. The seventh floor is a Zerg queen with 100 blood mantises and 1,000 green mantises. Under the watchful eyes of the immortal being 13, Logosia cleared every floor of the first trial tower with one sword. The speed is so fast that it is outrageous. Hiss. Are you crazy? 13. How come your Logosia from Ganwu universe has soared so fast in points? You have left Bolan behind. Is your Logosia from universe so strong? I just took a look at Logosia's trial situation. He cleared every level of the first trial tower with one sword. And Bolan spent some time on the 6th and 7th levels, so he was left behind by Logosia. Too abnormal. Starting from the 5th level of this trial tower, it is not something that ordinary star level can deal with. Logosia can actually kill them all with one sword. These immortal beings were very surprised and talked about it. Although they could do the same as Logosia in the trial tower, clearing the screen with one sword and killing tens of thousands of ferocious beasts, they are immortals. What is Logosia? He is star level. And according to the setting of the virtual universe, his body is only the physique of the 9th level of the star level, and his telekinesis is only the 9th level of the star level. It is exactly the same as others. It takes a lot of energy and effort for others to pass through one level. How can he do it so easily? An immortal who watched Logosia's process of breaking through the trial tower side. He is indeed a peerless genius recognized by the origin law. He has completely integrated the origin law of wind into his swordsmanship. When he slashes with a sword, it is like a breeze blowing across the earth, and nothing can be left uncut. Yes, just this swordsmanship is enough to squeeze into the top 3 of the total ranking of this genius battle. Bolan is not bad either. He is catching up, and the speed is very fast. Good guy. Now Bolan and Logosia are on par with each other. Amid the discussion of the immortals, Logosia was not far away. The death god Bolan bit very hard. When Logosia passed the third trial tower, Bolan's points began to catch up. The points of the two people presented a visual feast of chasing each other on the leaderboard. Very impressive. Luoxia and Bolan are both very impressive. I think the first 6 trial towers are not stressful for them. It all depends on the last trial tower. Yes, looking at their momentum, only the last trial tower can really decide the winner. The Immortals discussed with great interest. Luoxia and Bolan were very fast at the beginning. It took them less than 5 days to pass the first to the third trial tower. It was not until the fourth trial tower that their speed slowed down. The contents of these 7 trial towers are the same. It's just that the further you go, the more difficult the trials become. For example, Luoxia could pass the first trial tower with 1 sword. When it comes to the second trial tower, it's not that easy anymore. It takes at least 5 or 6 swords. At the third level, the difficulty increased again. It could no longer be solved with 5 or 6 swords. At least with Luoxia's strength, it would take a lot of energy and means to get the maximum points. In this way, the days passed day by day. While Rorschach and the others were struggling to break through, the Virtual Universe Company began to promote, and they announced the rankings of Rorschach and others. Anyone who pays attention to the Genius Battle will see Rorschach's ranking. Wow! Rorschach is so strong. From the first day, he has firmly occupied the first place. Yes, even if the man named Bolan can often get the same points as Rorschach, he will soon fall to second place. Only Rorschach always stays in first place. Rorschach is too strong. He should be the first in this talent competition. This Rorschach belongs to our Which Universe country? Rorschach, who ranks first in points, belongs to our Which Universe kingdom? Go ahead, Rorschach, win first place. Most of the citizens of the entire GANU Universe country are paying attention to the Genius Battle, especially after Rorschach won the first place in points. Almost all the citizens of the entire country knew Rorschach's name. They were extremely excited and proud, and told everyone they met in the virtual universe that Rorschach came from their country of Witchcraft Universe. The people of the Black Dragon Mountain Empire are even more proud. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Majesty. In the palace of the Black Dragon Mountain Empire, various ministers congratulated the Emperor on the throne. Rorschach, who left our empire, actually won the first place in the overall ranking of the universe. Your Majesty. This is a glory that our Black Dragon Mountain Empire has never had before. Luoxia really gave our Black Dragon Mountain Empire a lot of face. The Emperor laughed loudly and said, "That's right. Rorschach has given us the Black Dragon Mountain Empire too much face. No matter how the GANU Universe Kingdom wants to reward Rorschach, when he comes back, I will definitely reward him in the 10 galaxies I agreed to before. Give it to him. Uncle is so strong, he is always number 1. At Luo Feng's house, Luo Hai has also been paying attention to the points ranking of the Genius Battle. Seeing that Luoxia's points have always been ranked first, and he is already a planet-level boy, he is extremely proud and admired. Luo Ping on the side nodded, looked at his father's ranking, and said, "My father is probably the same as in the qualifiers. He wants to exert his strength in the later stage, but the ranking has not changed much." Luo Hai said, "Uncle Difan said that Dad's biggest problem is that his training time is too short, he must be seizing the time to improve himself." Luo Ping added, "Well, speaking of which, why do Uncle Difan and the others think that my father's cultivation time is short, but they don't say that my uncle's cultivation time is short?" Luo Hua, who was looking at the rankings, heard this and smiled and said to his 2 nephews, "That's because your third uncle's understanding is so good. The owner of the Extreme Martial Arts Gym once said that your third uncle's understanding is the most powerful among all people on Earth. His understanding allows him to, in a short period of time, just catch up with those geniuses who have been practicing for hundreds of years." Second uncle. Luo Hai looked at Luo Hua and asked, "I heard from Grandma that our family used to live in low-rent housing with nothing. It was only after my third uncle and you made money online that things got better. Doesn't that mean that you, the second uncle, are as enlightened as the third uncle?" Luo Hua smiled, shook his head and said, "I can't compare with your third uncle. His understanding is all round. And my understanding is only effective for the financial market. You asked me to learn martial arts. What secret techniques are there? I don't understand anything like that at all." Luo Ping was very interested in Luo Xia's childhood and asked, "Second uncle, tell us about what happened to you, your father, and third uncle when they were young." Luo Hua scratched his head and said, "Don't ask me about this. Ask Grandma. Grandma already knows." So Luo Hai and Luo Ping ran to find Gong Xinlan, Grandma. Gong Xinlan was cooking in the kitchen with Su Xian and the others. When she heard the shouts of her two good grandchildren, she quickly wiped her hands, walked out of the kitchen, looked at Luo Hai and Luo Ping and asked, "Why are you calling Grandma? Are you hungry?" Luo Hai said, "Grandma, tell us about my father and his children when they were young, and how my third uncle and father became stronger." This. Gong Xinlan looked reminiscing, holding the hands of her two grandchildren, and walked to the sofa in the living room to sit down. "Come sit here, Grandma will tell you, let's talk about your father and uncle." Virtual universe, participating in the warplane. In the central square, the great immortals from the 1008 universe countries were watching the trials and assessments of various geniuses, laughing and talking to each other. There are really many geniuses who hide their abilities during internal selection. Surprise! However, this trial arrangement has several levels that are very unfriendly to people who are good at illusions. Yes, like the metal beings on the third level, the machines on the fifth level are not afraid of soul attacks. Those players who are good at soul attacks are at a great disadvantage. There will be an arena battle later. One-on-one, we can even see the difference between these talents. Well, this Rorschach is still ranked first and has never fallen. Although Bolin was able to catch up, he quickly fell to second place. The first place this time will not really be beaten by this. Take it off Xia. Speaking of Luo Xia, although his brother Luo Feng's ranking is rising, it rises very slowly. I have seen his trials and found that he has to stay for 10 days each time before entering the next level. This Luo Feng, doesn't he regard the trial space as a training place? It's very interesting. The immortal being 13 from Ganu Universe Kingdom, listening to the discussions of other immortal beings around him, raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at the rankings. On this ranking list, Rorschach firmly occupies the first place. The second is Bolin. Rong Jun rank 16th. As for Luo Feng, don't mention it. 13 shook his head slightly. At this time, there were already hundreds of thousands of eliminated geniuses in the central square. Swish, swish, swish. In just a few seconds, more than 10 figures were teleported to the square. Many of these geniuses were very unhappy after being eliminated. There are also some people who have known their strength for a long time. After being eliminated, they quickly adjusted their mood, talked with people in the square, and paid attention to other participants who had not yet been eliminated. Suddenly, the immortal being 13 suddenly stood up. 13, what's wrong? What happened? The surrounding immortals looked towards 13 and asked curiously. It's okay, it's Rorschach from our universe country who has already reached the 7th trial tower. 13 shook his head and said to the other immortal beings. All the immortals were shocked when they heard this. Have you made it to the 7th trial tower? After these immortals finished speaking, they quickly called up the live broadcast of Rorschach's trial. On the screen, Rorschach has arrived at the first floor of the 7th trial tower. Swish, swish, swish. In front of him, the system was refreshing 10,000 blood-haired mammoths. Each of these blood-haired mammoths is ranked among the top 100 in this genius battle. At this time, everyone in the square was watching Rorschach's trial scene. In the picture, those blood-haired mammoths launched an attack. The attacks of these blood-haired mammoths all contain the original law, and are incredibly powerful. All the geniuses who exited the trial space were stunned. Each bloody mammoth's attack contains the original law. There are 10,000 of them on this first level. How to deal with them? Can you really make it through? At this time, not only these geniuses and immortals are paying attention to Rorschach's trial, but also the Virtual Universe Company, and even many other big figures from the other four giants, who are enough to tremble the entire universe, are also paying attention to Rorschach's trial. Because of the difficulty setting of the seventh trial tower, it stands to reason that it is absolutely impossible for a star-level player to pass it. Now let's see how Rorschach, a little guy who was recognized by the origin law at the stellar level, can perform in the seventh trial tower. The ferocious beast Bloody Mammoth in the first trial tower is very weak. Any stronger genius can sweep it away. At least none of the geniuses who participated in the peak decisive battle were eliminated on the first floor of the first tower. But with the second trial tower and the third trial tower, the further you go, the stronger the ferocious beasts in the trial tower become. Until this seventh trial tower, any one of the 10,000 blood-haired mammoths is enough to kill 99% of the geniuses participating in this battle. When 10,000 bloody mammoths jointly attack, it will be even more of a nightmare. Just when everyone thought Rorschach was going to fail on this first level, Rorschach in the live broadcast was surrounded by cyan wind and purple thunder. What? That's the law of the origin of wind and the law of thunder. Didn't you mean that he was only recognized by the law of the origin of wind? How come he also understood the law of thunder? And looking at the level of understanding of the thunder law, it's not low at all. What a powerful aura of law. He actually merged the law of wind and the law of thunder. Amid everyone's exclamations of surprise and disbelief, Luoxia exerted his strength. He turned into thunder, holding a long sword, and rushed into the blood-haired mammoth. Boom! Thunder explodes. The storm is raging. The bloody mammoths were blown away by the howling wind. Bolts of thunder came to the world, blowing up the bloody mammoths to pieces. Ha 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 ha, Luoxia laughed, his blood boiling all over. That's what it has to be, that's what it has to be. Kill. In the center of his eyebrows, a green mark shone brightly, and the terrifying and powerful aura of law lingered around him. Led by the wind, his figure was erratic, like the unpredictable wind, making it completely impossible for the thousands of blood-haired mammoths besieging him to attack him. The long sword in his hand, with the explosive thunder, swayed out a piece of lightning, tearing apart the bloody mammoths and exploding them. The geniuses were stunned. The immortal beings were also shocked. Those great beings who were paying attention to this battle were also secretly surprised by the combat power displayed by Rorschach. 7 days later, Rorschach killed all 10,000 blood-haired mammoths that could have killed other geniuses. He was covered in blood, standing on the top of a mountain piled with blood-haired mammoth corpses. He was obviously not very tall, but the aura coming out through the screen made all geniuses feel endless shock and suffocation. Passed. Such a terrifying blood-haired mammoth, each attack carries the power of the original law. There are 10,000 in total. He actually killed them all. Is this guy really a human? Too strong. There is no way we can compare with it. If I were on the first floor of Tower 7, I would be eliminated in an instant. How could he finish all the kills? The law of the origin of wind, the law of thunder. He actually passed the first floor of the 7th trial tower by combining the power of 2 lower laws. This Luoxia must be the strongest in this session. Look, Bolin has also passed the 6th trial tower and is now on the first floor of the 7th. In the square, many geniuses exclaimed and vented their shock. Suddenly, someone noticed Bolin's trial screen and found that this powerful genius who was enough to compete for the first place also passed the 6th trial tower and entered the first floor of the 7th trial tower. Bolin seems to have passed the 7th floor of the 6th tower easily. It depends on whether he can pass the 1st floor like Logos. It should be possible. Bolin's spatial origin law has comprehended a very high realm. Let's start. Under the attention of everyone, Bolin began to fight with the blood-haired mammoth on the 1st floor of the 7th tower. Boom. Injured. Bolin is injured. Death god Bolin, injured for the first time. Could it be that Bolin is going to lose? The geniuses and immortals were all looking at Bolin's trial screen. On the screen, Bolin exploded. Oh my god. They are all phantoms. What a high level of understanding of the laws of space is required. He can create thousands of phantoms in an instant. On the screen, under the attack of the blood-haired mammoths that covered the sky and the earth, Bolin's figure instantly turned into thousands of phantoms. Swish. The sword light was sharp. Bolin drew his sword, and each of his swords seemed to cut through the space. Each sword made the geniuses present unable to see clearly with their naked eyes. Each sword had no trajectory and no rules. As Bolin drew his sword, one blood-haired mammoth after another fell. However, compared to Rorschach, Bolin's body movements were not enough to dodge each attack of these blood-haired mammoths. After suffering 3 severe injuries, the god of death Bolin was finally trapped in the siege of the blood-haired mammoths and died. Before his death, Baran killed a total of 5,612 blood-haired mammoths. What a pity, he still died. It seems that although Baran is strong enough, Rorschach is still stronger. Yes, this Baran also has the power of the original law of wind, but he is completely incomparable to Rorschach, who is recognized by the original law of wind. Rorschach relies on the original law of wind, but he has never been touched by the blood-haired mammoth. Too terrible. Baran and Rorschach are far ahead of all of us. I don't know how they practice at all. They are not human at all. In the square, the geniuses talked about it. And Baran, who failed on the 1st level of the 7th tower, was also teleported to the square. He had a cold face and his eyes were fixed on the screen playing the Rorschach trial. At this time, Rorschach had been teleported to the 2nd level of the 7th trial tower. He had to face 10,000 nine-headed pythons whose attacks also carried the power of the original law. This 9-headed python is much stronger than the blood-haired mammoth. All 9 heads must be cut off at once to completely kill the 9-headed python. Can Rorschach pass this level? In the square, the geniuses and immortals are all looking at Rorschach's screen. Hiss. 9-headed pythons appear one after another. They are tall and majestic. Rorschach is as small as an ant in front of these pythons that cover the sky and the sun. However, Rorschach, who is holding a long sword at this moment, has an excited smile on his face. I'm late, sorry. Thanks to the book friend Ami for the 100 starting coins. Thank you very much. At the same time, thank you to all the book friends who subscribed and voted. Thank you very much. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yoon Song. Chapter 172. The 9-headed python is a ferocious beast with extremely high vitality. Only by quickly chopping off all 9 of its heads can it be completely killed. In the previous trial towers, the strength of the 9-headed python was just average, and its recovery speed was not abnormal. But in this 7th trial tower, the strength of the 9-headed python has undergone a qualitative change in all aspects. Each of their attacks not only carries a powerful power of the origin law, but also greatly improves its recovery speed. The head can grow back immediately after it is chopped off. Therefore, if the contestants at this level want to completely kill a 9-headed python, they must chop off the 9 heads of the 9-headed python in an instant. Google searched can. But how easy is that? The defense of the 9-headed python is extremely strong. In the predictions of the bigwigs of the Virtual Universe Company, these contestants participating in the genius battle, whether this session or the geniuses in the past, will not be able to pass this level. In the square, everyone is paying attention to the trial screen of Rorschach. His 9-headed pythons appeared one after another, spitting out their tongues and staring down at the tiny Rorschach. How can Rorschach pass? There is no way he can pass. I think he can only stop here. But even if he stops at this level, his strength should be the strongest among our class, right? Although I am a little unwilling, Rorschach, who can pass the first level of the 7th tower, is indeed the strongest among us. Huh? The strongest? This is just a trial? If it is one-on-one, he will probably lose when he meets a contestant who is good at soul attack. The design of this trial tower is really perverted. The monsters in the 7th tower are designed to be so powerful, just to prevent us from passing. The geniuses in the square were discussing. The immortal beings were also talking in a low voice. This Luoxia should be killed on the 2nd floor. The life recovery speed of each 9-headed python is maxed out, and the attack also carries the power of the origin law. It is impossible for him to kill 10,000 9-headed pythons. Yes, I think he will fail if he kills one 9-headed python at most. It should be impossible to kill even one. If he comprehends the upper law, he may be able to kill 1 or 2 9-headed pythons. The immortal beings whispered, and suddenly they looked at Luoxia's trial screen one by one, stopped talking, and their faces became surprised. In the trial tower, Luoxia looked at the 9-headed pythons that kept refreshing in front of him. Took a deep breath. Then, the next second. Boom. His momentum suddenly exploded. The golden law aura rushed up from him, and a golden sword imprinted on his forehead shone brightly. Crackling. There was also purple thunder falling from the sky, exploding around him. Gold, the law of the origin of gold. Boom. When Luoxia completely released his aura and revealed the aura of the law of gold, everyone in the square was stunned. The immortal beings also showed extremely surprised expressions one by one. Actually, he was recognized by the law of the origin of gold. Star level, recognition of 2 origin laws. Exaggerated. Too exaggerated. Is this Luoxia really a human? Too terrible. How can someone get the recognition of 2 origin laws at the star level? You know, even if it is a realm master, it will take tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years to get the recognition of an origin law. But what about Luoxia? In just a few years, he has obtained the recognition of 2 origin laws. This is not something that a normal person, or even a peerless genius, can do. This Rorschach is too amazing. What kind of understanding is this? So scary. In the square, whether it was the geniuses or the immortals who participated in the competition, they were all shocked by the golden origin law displayed by Rorschach. The green-haired girl named Jian Shui was extremely shocked and said to her brother next to her, "Brother, this Rorschach is so scary. He actually got the recognition of 2 origin laws at the star level. And his understanding of the thunder law is not low. Is this really something that a human can do?" The girl's brother smiled bitterly and opened his mouth, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he said nothing. Rorschach is definitely beyond the scope of human beings. The recognition of 2 origin laws at the star level is not something that a human, or even a life in this universe can do. And not far from the brother and sister, the white-clothed death god Bolin was standing, and at this time, the iceberg broke and showed a look of surprise. "What a scary guy," he murmured in a low voice, looking at Rorschach's figure. His eyes were extremely hot. Not far from the god of death, Bolin, was the wild man Rongjun. He looked at Luoxia, who was surrounded by the aura of the golden law, and clenched his fists. "Is this the madman's brother? Too strong. No matter in which aspect, he is much stronger than me. If I fight him, I'm afraid I can't take a single move." In the trial tower, Luoxia calmed down after his aura burst. His face was calm and his heart was as still as water. In terms of state of mind, he is no worse than Hong. He even surpassed Hong and Thunder God. Finally, 10,000 nine-headed pythons were refreshed. They hissed and attacked Luoxia. In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth split. It was like the end of the world. Facing the attacking nine-headed python, Luoxia raised the long sword in his hand, and the golden laurel lingered on the blade, making the blade sharper. Swish! Except for the immortal beings, no genius could see how Luoxia drew his sword. Only a flash of lightning flashed, and the nine-headed python that rushed to Luoxia suddenly broke all 9 heads and fell from the huge snake body, turning into a gradually cold corpse. Crackling! Like lightning, Luoxia flashed and jumped among the 9-headed pythons. With every jump, a 9-headed python would fall to the ground and become a corpse. This little guy? He actually integrated the power of the Thunder Law and the Gold Origin Law so well. Horrible, too terrifying. If he is given enough time, he will be a venerable in the future. In the endless years since the genius battle was held, this Luoxia can be ranked in the top 3 in history. Too terrible, this swordsmanship. This understanding of the law. He may be able to pass the second level. It is impossible to pass. An immortal being shook his head, using the power of 2 origin laws, his physical strength can't support it. With his current momentum, he will die of exhaustion after killing thousands of 9-headed pythons at most. Other immortal beings nodded slightly and agreed. Now Luoxia's physical fitness is only the 9th level of the star level. Even if his understanding of the law is profound and he can exert 2 powerful law powers, it is of no use in front of these 10,000 nine-headed pythons. His physical strength limits his output. At the same time, Luoxia in the trial tower also discovered this problem. As the 9-headed pythons fell to the ground, his physical strength was also rapidly draining away, and there were at least more than 7,000 nine-headed pythons still alive. Tisk, I was thinking of using the power of the domain later. Rorschach had to admit that he underestimated the 7th trial tower and wanted to hide some of his strength. But this 7th trial tower was not designed for people to pass through. If Rorschach wants to achieve the achievement of passing the level, he must try his best. 2,000 words first, and more in the evening. I had planned to update at 12 o'clock and 18 o'clock, but I couldn't get up in the morning because it was too cold and the quilt was too comfortable, so I updated 10,000 words at one time in the evening for the past 2 days, and then pulled my average subscription. But today I saw a comment that a book friend asked why it became one update, so I will update one chapter first. I'll see if I can resume the previous update tomorrow. Thank you for your subscription, reward, vote, and support. Thank you very much. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yoon Song. Chapter 173. Call. The rapid loss of physical strength made Rorschach pant slightly. He looked at the 9-headed pythons that were still alive and knew that he could no longer hide his strength, otherwise his previous declaration of clearing the 7 trial towers would become a joke. And he is not afraid of exposing his strength. Because even if his strength is exposed and those geniuses know his true strength, he still has enough confidence to crush all opponents in a one-on-one decisive battle in the ring. So. Field. Rorschach whispered, and the gray field centered on him and spread out in all directions. In an instant, all the 9-headed pythons were enveloped. In Rorschach's sight, the speed of all the 9-headed pythons slowed down, as if a movie had been slowed down dozens of times, and his eyes shone with a bright golden luster. In a gray world, he is the only one who still retains the colorfulness of the world. This is the realm of wind speed. It turns out to be the field of wind speed. No wonder this little guy can be recognized by the law of the origin of wind at the stellar level. He is actually the top wind speed domain in the field of wind. This little guy has given us too many surprises. The 9th level's wind speed domain. It also incorporates the law of the origin of wind. The 2nd level, he passed. The immortal beings were surprised again when they saw the field where Rorschach broke out. After an immortal being said his words of approval, the geniuses in the square discovered that the 9-headed python on the 2nd floor died in an instant. In their field of vision, they just saw a flash of gray light up. Then, before they could see clearly what happened, the heads of all the 9-headed pythons in the 2nd floor of the 7th trial tower exploded and turned into the headless body fell to the ground. The geniuses were shocked. What happened? Why are all the 9-headed pythons dead? I just took a look. There are more than 7,000 9-headed pythons left. Why did they all die all of a sudden? What did Rorschach do? Not only were the other geniuses surprised, but even Bolin, the god of death, had a slightly dazed look in his eyes, not seeing clearly what Rorschach had done. Only the immortal beings showed solemn and surprised expressions. An immortal existence whispered, "This child has also understood the law of time." Well, when he just used the power of the domain, he also incorporated the power of the law of time. This Rorschach is the disciple of which immortal existence? How could it be so powerful? Calculating carefully, wind, metal, thunder and lightning, time, he has already demonstrated the power of the 4 original laws, and wind and metal have also been recognized by the original laws. It's so scary. 13. Do you know whose disciple this Logosya is? The scale armor giant in question shook his head slightly in a daze and replied, I don't know. I only know that he comes from a living planet called Earth and is an indigenous person there. Indigenous. The immortal beings were even more surprised. Doesn't it mean that Rorschach may not have a master to teach him? He could reach this point without a master. If he had a master, wouldn't he be even more powerful than he is now? All immortal beings look at Rorschach in the picture. At this time, Rorschach, who had used the power of the domain and the law of time, had exhausted his energy and was panting while leaning on his sword. The 3rd level is 1000 metal life Dora warriors. Logosya whispered, reviewing the detailed information of this Twilogo warrior in his mind. As metal beings, the Twilogo warriors have no souls, and these metal beings are extremely difficult to kill. Only by destroying the core in their bodies can they be truly killed. But as metal beings, the Twilogo warriors have extremely strong defense. Even with the 5th level weapons used, it would be difficult for ordinary star level weapons to break through their defenses, let alone destroy the life core in their bodies. And the most terrifying thing is that the life core of the Twilogo warriors is also very hard metal. With the blessing of the 7th trial tower, it is probably difficult to destroy it even with 5th level force weapons. Fortunately, every time I enter a new level of the trial tower, my physical strength will be restored to its original state. Otherwise, in my current situation, I might not be able to pass the 3rd level. Rorschach whispered, feeling an invisible force coming and teleporting him to the next level. The 3rd floor of the 7th trial tower. Rorschach's figure appeared, and in front of him, metal beings were forming. Feeling that his physical strength had returned to its original state, he held the long sword and thought about how to break the situation. These metal beings must be the same as the blood-haired mammoth and the 9-headed python. Their attacks contain the power of the original law, and their defense and speed are greatly improved. If you can't resolve the battle quickly and keep fighting with them, you will definitely be sent out of the trial space when your physical strength is exhausted. Whoosh! Not long after, 1000 Twilogo warriors emerged. No nonsense, these Twilogo warriors directly besieged Logosya from all directions, like a heaven and earth net, leaving him nowhere to escape. Rorschach raised his sword, and on his blade, there was cyan wind and dreamy light lingering. All immortal beings know. That is the power of the original law of wind and the original law of time. Weathering. Luoxia shouted loudly and raised his sword in the air. The next moment, the blue wind, accompanied by a dreamy stream of light, blew towards the 1,000 Tuoluo warriors. In the astonished eyes of everyone, the metal of those Tuoluo warriors began to weather and decay. The green-haired girl Qian Shui murmured in surprise, "It's the power of the law of time. He has comprehended the law of time, and his level of comprehension is not low." The brother next to him smiled bitterly. He had vowed before that Luoxia had no time to comprehend the upper law. As a result, Luoxia slapped him in the face and used the power of the law of time. And looking at the degree of weathering and decay of the bodies of the Tuoluo warriors on a large scale, his level of comprehension of the law of time is definitely not low, and should be at the same level as the law of space comprehended by the god of death, Bolin. The girl's brother was already roaring in his heart. How could such a genius who defied the heavens emerge in this genius battle? Not only did he get the recognition of the two major origin laws, but he also comprehended the most difficult law of time to this level. Is this really a human? In the trial tower, the bodies of the Tuoluo warriors were weathered and decayed by the power of the wind origin law and the time law. Soon, their life cores were exposed. Now, Luoxia's eyes lit up with a brilliant golden light. Endless sword domain. The clanging sound resounded throughout the third layer of space. The meteor sword in Luoxia's hand burst out with a dazzling golden light, and the power of the golden law covered the area of 100 miles. The meteor sword separated a golden small sword and turned this area into a sword domain. The people in the square saw it. With Luoxia as the center, within a radius of 100 miles, the powerful power of the golden law was attached to a golden small sword. They were either suspended in the air or inserted into the ground, and the grand and terrifying law breath was filled. Go. Luoxia pinched the sword finger and pointed at the Tuoluo warriors. In an instant, these golden small swords cut through the sky and shot at those Tuoluo warriors. The meteor sword in Luoxia's hand just split into 1,000 small swords, just corresponding to the number of these Tuoluo warriors. He controlled the golden small swords one by one. Until this moment, the immortal beings and geniuses in the square remembered a fact. Luoxia is a spiritualist. I just remembered that this guy was originally a spiritualist. But when he broke through the level before, he didn't use any spiritualist ability at all. My God, it's only now that he uses the power of a spiritualist. Amid the surprise of the crowd, Luoxia controlled the golden small swords one by one, accurately destroying the life core of the Tuoluo warriors. These small swords contain rich power of the origin of gold. When the body of the Tuoluo warrior was weathered and decayed, revealing the life core, it was their death. For other geniuses, the life core that is difficult to destroy is not a difficult task in front of Luoxia, who is recognized by the origin of gold. Crack, crack, crack. Accompanied by a series of cracking sounds, one by one, the Tuoluo warriors died. Whoosh. The wind whistled past, and Luoxia took back the golden sword, which turned into a meteor sword in his hand again. All around him, all the Tuoluo warriors were dead. The third floor of the seventh trial tower, Luoxia passed. In the square, most of the geniuses held their breath and looked at Luoxia nervously on the trial screen. Passed the third level. He actually passed the third level of the seventh trial tower. Now we can be sure that Luoxia is the undisputed number one, right? Even Bolin couldn't pass the first level of the seventh trial tower, but Luoxia cleared the first three levels of the seventh trial tower in one breath. I can say that he is the undisputed number one genius in this genius battle. Indeed. I doubt that even in a one-on-one ring battle, can anyone really beat this monster? Luoxia has comprehended at least 4 origin laws. And the level of comprehension of each law is terrifyingly high. Too scary. Genius. Absolute genius. Compared to him, I feel like I'm just an ordinary person. The immortal beings listened to the discussion of the geniuses in the square and nodded slightly. Indeed, with the strength that Logosya has shown now, he can be regarded as the most undisputed number one genius in this genius battle. Even the god of death Bolan can't compare with Logosya. With the talent shown by Logosya, even if it is put on the time scale of the entire universe, he can be regarded as one of the top 10 geniuses since the birth of our human race, right? Yes, he definitely can be regarded as one of them. If Logosya doesn't die in the middle of the journey, relying on this understanding, he will definitely grow into a giant of our human race in the future. This is the first time I have seen such a talented guy. The Ganu Universe Kingdom is really proud this time. The people in the square were talking about it, and Logosya in the trial tower was teleported to the 4th floor of the 7th trial tower by the system. In other places in the universe, great beings stood one by one. They stood there, like the center of the universe. The vast galaxy and billions of stars were all prostrating at their feet. These great beings were also paying attention to Logosya. Many of them were the core figures of the virtual universe company, the real top bosses. When the 7th trial tower was originally set up, no one was expected to pass it at the star level. Yes, we have held so many genius battles with the giant axe arena, and no genius has ever passed it. But now it seems that this little guy named Logosya is very likely to pass it. Let's wait and see. If he only has the current strength, it will be difficult for him to pass the 4th level. Indeed, the flying hounds on the 4th level are not only strong, but also the fastest. Even if he has the speed domain, I'm afraid he can't avoid the attacks of those flying hounds. Even if he can't pass it, the talent he shows is also a peerless genius that can rank among the top 3 in all genius battles. Yes, I want to accept him as my disciple. Don't think about it, he has been favored by the Lord of Chaos. Has the Lord of Chaos favored him? That Bolan is not bad, he can be my disciple. These great beings discussed, and the stars flickered because of their words. And on the 4th floor of the 7th trial tower, in front of Logosya, 1,000 fierce beasts, flying hyenas, have been refreshed. These flying hyenas are incredibly fast. When they move, it's like teleporting. Logosya opened the domain, activated the ability of the divine wind leg, used the law of heaven and earth to shrink his body, and finally used the power of the law of the origin of wind, so that he could deal with these flying hyenas. But this is not a solution. It's not enough to just avoid the attacks of these flying hyenas. If you go on like this, you will only consume your physical strength. When your physical strength is exhausted, he will fail. In the square, the geniuses whispered about the dilemma Logosya was facing. And here in the immortal existence, they noticed the secret method used by Logosya. Shrinking the body, what kind of secret method is this? It looks like he created it himself. After shrinking his body, his speed increased significantly, and he seemed to be able to restrain his breath. Look, some flying beasts can't even find Logosya's body. It's a very powerful secret method. In the picture, Logosya dodged the attacks of flying beasts. His body skills have reached a very high level. He not only dodges with speed, but also makes full use of everything around him. He moves left and right, with such a fast speed and exquisite body skills that except for a few geniuses and immortal beings who can see Logosya's movements clearly, other people's naked eyes can't keep up with his speed at all. The design of this 7th trial tower should require people to kill all enemies in a short time to pass the level. Otherwise, the pursuit and siege of these ferocious beasts and monsters will exhaust people's physical strength and fail directly. But how easy is it to kill these monsters with the power of the origin law in a short time? Such a design really doesn't want people to pass the level, right? Rorschach whispered while dodging. Boom! He suddenly exploded. The secret method of absolute space was used. The power of the origin law of space exploded. Huh! In an instant, thousands of Rorschach's phantoms appeared in the fourth layer of space. It's the power of the origin law of space. The geniuses and immortal beings in the outside world exclaimed. Death God Baran stared at Rorschach in the picture and murmured in a low voice. I knew it, after comprehending so many origin laws, how could he not comprehend the origin law of space? But how did he do it? Why can he comprehend so many origin laws at the star level? And the level of comprehension of each one is not low. Other geniuses and immortal beings were also surprised. An immortal being said in astonishment, he can leave thousands of phantom bodies in space. This little guy's understanding of the origin of space is no worse than Bolan's. Yes. The most terrifying thing is that his understanding of the law of time, although at a lower level, is not much lower. A star level, not only comprehended 3 lower basic laws, wind, thunder, and gold, but also comprehended 2 higher laws, time and space. And the level of comprehension of each law is not low. How did he do it? This understanding is too against the sky. Too scary. What an amazing talent. Since the human race stood in the universe, has there been a genius like Rorschach? Maybe in the ancient and distant years. But in this era, this Rorschach is afraid to dominate the world. Too scary. The immortals were amazed, and the geniuses were surprised. Rorschach in the trial tower broke through their cognition again and again, creating one miracle after another. In sight, Logos, who had transformed into thousands of bodies, began to attack. Each of his swords was sharper than Bolan's blade, and directly cut the space apart. Wow! The space exploded, as if glass was broken, and endless sword energy was crisscrossed, with magnificent colors, instantly taking away the lives of all the flying beasts. The immortal beings were stunned. They stared at the amazing scene in the trial screen, which seemed like the world was broken. Even the space was cut apart. Logos's understanding of the laws of space is higher than we thought. It's terrible. In terms of the understanding of the laws of space, it is even stronger than Bolan. In the square, the god of death, Bolan, clenched his fists tightly, looking at Logos who cut the space in the picture. His body trembled slightly. He was not afraid, but excited. He couldn't help but murmured in a low voice, so strong, so strong. In the trial tower, Logos collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath. He was completely exhausted by expanding the domain and using the law of space. The most important thing is that he was either killed instantly by the monster or killed instantly by the monster 4 times in a row. His spirit was always in a tense state and he couldn't relax at all. Logos's heart was already a little tired. If his will was not strong and firm enough, he would have collapsed long ago. In the trial, he was defeated by the Twologo warriors or the flying beast. Hold on. Logos lay on the ground waiting for the system to transmit. It's already the 4th floor, only 3 floors left. I don't believe that I can't pass it. Outside world. The giant in the scale armor frowned, looking at Logos who was lying on the ground with a tired look, and whispered, "It's bad, this kid's will is almost at its limit." The immortal being next to him heard this, nodded, looked at Logos and said, "Since this kid entered the 7th trial tower, his spirit has been tense, without any chance to relax. Now he is almost at his limit. He may be eliminated at the 5th floor. It's already very powerful to be able to break into the 5th floor of the 7th trial tower. Since the establishment of these 7 trial towers, no one has ever broken into the 5th floor of the 7th trial tower. Yes, Logos is already good enough. Even if he is killed on the 5th floor, he is the undisputed #1 in this genius battle." The immortal beings talked about it, and they all recognized the talent and strength shown by Logos. At the same time, Logos was teleported to the next floor by the system again. The 5th floor of the 7th trial tower. This is an experimental base of the mechanical family. The ground and surrounding buildings are completely paved with alloy. As soon as he was teleported to the 5th floor, Luosia's physical strength and energy were restored. But his spirit was exhausted. At this time, in front of Luosia, there stood 108-meter-tall silver humanoid mechanical puppets. On the bodies of these mechanical puppets, there were secret patterns of laws. Just standing there, they exuded a terrifying breath of laws. It can be confirmed that if one of the mechanical puppets here is released to the 4th floor, it can explode and kill the flying beasts there. These mechanical puppets are very powerful. Buzz. 100 tall silver mechanical puppets, energy activated, eyes radiating red light, instantly locked Luosia. They pounced on Luosia, and a few fell behind, firing rail guns one after another. These rail guns are extremely fast. Although they have not reached the speed of light, they have reached 1/10 of the speed of light. The pupils of Bolin in the square shrank slightly. If he faced these rail guns, he would not be able to dodge at all. I still have to burst out with all my strength. If I kill them one by one, my physical strength won't be able to support it. Rorschach opens the domain. Divine Wind Kick. Twice the talent enhancement. The golden secret pattern appears all over his body. Burst at 32 times the speed, he dodges the mechanical puppet's rail gun at a very extreme speed, and then he jumps high into the air, and the power of the space law bursts out with all his strength. Rorschach pinches his sword finger and shouts, "Endless sword domain." He leaves hundreds of phantoms in space, and each phantom seems to be real. At the same time, as his voice falls, countless golden small swords quickly unfold with each Rorschach as the center. The surging space law and the golden law surge. One by one, the golden small swords are suspended in the air, forming a complex and mysterious sword formation. Explode. Rorschach extends his hand and points, inducing the power of the space law and the golden law. In an instant, hundreds of endless sword domains burst open. The space is broken like a mirror. The law of wind. The next second, at the moment when the space was broken, Luosia immediately activated the power of the law of the origin of wind. Under the power of the law of the origin of wind, countless space fragments formed a terrifying storm, sweeping towards those mechanical puppets. Tear. No matter how strong these mechanical puppets are, their alloy hardness is limited. How can they defend against the destructive power at the spatial level? Under the power of the 3 laws activated by Luosia, 100 mechanical puppets were instantly destroyed and killed. Bang! Luosia fell from the air, he was panting violently, his eyes could not hide the fatigue. In the square, the geniuses were silent. The immortal beings were speechless. They thought Luosia was going to fall on the 5th floor. But, he brought a miracle again. No one expected that Luosia could activate the power of the 3 original laws in an instant, one ring after another, relying on superb and exquisite combat ideas, defeating the mechanical puppets in an instant and passing the 5th level of the trial space. Next, it was the 6th level of the trial space. With Luosia's willpower about to reach its limit, could he still pass the 6th level? Just when Luosia reached the 6th level of the 7th trial tower, other geniuses who were still challenging in the trial space also failed and left the trial space. Now, the only one left in the trial space was Luosia. Luofeng was left. Luofeng had now reached the 1st level of the 6th trial tower. I didn't expect that the people who stayed in this trial space until the end were Luofeng and Luosia. Although Luofeng's talent is not as amazing as Luosia's, it is still amazing enough. 13. Your GANU Universe Nation really stole the show in this genius battle. 13. Good luck. This Luofeng's movement training is 10,000 lines flow. He has just broken through to the level of 9 lines flow, but such a breakthrough cannot pass the 6th trial tower. Yes, unless his understanding of the laws of space reaches the same level as Bolin or even Rorschach. He should have failed on the 1st floor of the 6th trial tower. The immortal beings whispered and paid some attention to Luo Feng. In the square, some geniuses were also whispering about Luo Feng. This Luo Feng is worthy of being Luo Xia's biological brother, and his strength and talent are amazing enough. Rorschach's points are now ranked first. With Luo Feng's results, he should be able to rank among the top 5. Look, Luo Feng is going to be defeated. Sure enough, my understanding of the higher laws is not enough to pass the 6th trial tower and the 7th trial tower. For some reason, when I saw Luo Feng failed in the 6th trial tower, I felt how powerful Rorschach was. What kind of strength do I have to forcefully break into the 6th floor of the 7th trial tower? Amid everyone's discussion, Luo Feng was sent away by the bloody mammoth. He was teleported to the square by the system and found that many people were looking at him. He lowered his head slightly and looked at his ranking. Ranked 4th overall. 4th. Luo Feng whispered, not caring about his ranking. He looked towards the only virtual screen that still existed in the square and murmured. Through the points, I guessed that Xioxia was entering the 7th trial tower, but I didn't expect that he actually reached the 6th floor. The successive trial towers become more difficult, and the strength of the monsters inside increases exponentially. Xioxia was able to break into the 6th floor. Unknowingly, my brother has become so strong. His expression was quite emotional, and he was silently cheering for Luo Xia. If you can really clear all the trial towers, it will be an achievement that has never been done before or since. The 6th floor of the 7th trial tower. Rorschach stood on the wasteland, his physical strength and energy restored. But everyone could see that he looked exhausted. This is a state of mind that is extremely exhausted and cannot be concealed. The immortal being 13 led by Ganu Universe Kingdom frowned and sighed. This child's will has reached its limit. The 6th level is the starry sky beast Kang. Although it is not the most powerful golden horned beast in the metal system, it is extremely powerful. Rorschach should not be able to pass this level. In every corner of the universe, those great beings are also whispering. This kid has discovered the secret to clearing the last trial tower, which is to explode with all your strength and kill all the monsters in a short time. If you don't do this, you will be killed by monsters that are far more powerful than you. But every full power explosion consumes his mind and will. The system of the virtual universe can help him restore his physical strength and mental power, but the wear and tear on his mind and will cannot be restored. His will has reached its limit. It seems that reaching the 6th floor of the 7th trial tower is his limit. Don't speak too soon. Will is the most difficult to quantify human power. Maybe he can survive it. Yes, if he can survive it. We'll see. Hold head high. The starry sky monster is suspended in the sky, covering the sky and the sun, like a giant beast that swallows the world. Incomparably terrifying auras emanated from these giant beasts as huge as mountains. Rorschach's human body was as small as dust in front of these giant beasts. 10 starry sky beasts. Rorschach raised the sword in his hand, and with the reflection of the blade, he could see his tired eyes. And a thought kept popping up in my heart, reaching the 6th floor of the 7th trial tower is already awesome. It's already number 1. That's it, even if you fail here, it's not a big deal. This thought kept coming, making him want to give up. But is it really just the 6th floor? No, how can it be? Rorschach muttered to himself, looked at the sword in his hand, his eyes suddenly became firm, and he shouted. If this is my limit, then I'm too weak. Not enough. Not enough at all. This is not my limit at all. Boom. The aura of terror erupted from Rorschach's body. Everyone saw that dense golden secret patterns emerged from Rorschach's body, and endless bright brilliance bloomed. What is this? Gudong. Some people swallowed in disbelief. Luo Feng stared intently at the picture, which suddenly transformed into a 1,000-meter tall Luo Xia, and murmured the name of this secret method, the second level of the law of heaven and earth. Trial Tower. Rorschach, who transformed into a 1,000-meter giant, exuded a wild and terrifying aura. With the blessing of the secret technique, the longsword in his hand has become nearly a kilometer long. His whole body was covered with dense golden secret patterns. Under the background of the golden light of the secret pattern, Luoxia looked like a giant god of war who came out of the ancient wilderness. 30 times the combat power blessing. Kill! Luoxia shouted, raised the longsword in his hand, and rushed towards the 10 terrifying star beasts. Sorry, I'm late. Thank you for your subscription, reward, and vote. Thank you very much. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo-Yoon Song. Chapter 174. Rorschach transformed into a 1,000-meter giant and fought with the star beasts. These star beasts were extremely powerful, and every strike contained the profound power of the origin law. Rorschach tried his best and fought bloody battles. He integrated the power of the origin law that he had comprehended into his swordsmanship, and displayed superb body skills to deal with the siege of 10 star beasts. Because he had bred the golden horned beast clone and obtained the inherited memory of the golden horned beast, Rorschach had a far greater understanding of the Kang, which was also a golden star beast, than ordinary people. Thunder roared, and annihilation flashed. Thunder suddenly exploded on Rorschach's sword. As the lightning poured, a star beast Kang fell from its mouth. With a bang, a huge pit was smashed in the wasteland, and the earth was shaking. After killing one of the star beasts, Luoxia immediately flashed, as if teleporting, to avoid the stranglehold of the 2 star beasts. Then the power of the space law exploded, and 2 golden swords with the power of the law that could penetrate the space broke the big head of the star beast Kang. Ah! In the shrill howl, the golden swords crushed the brains of the 2 star beasts into pieces. Luoxia's huge body shook slightly. With his will reaching the limit, he could no longer burst out a full-screen attack in an instant like the first 5 levels, killing these star beasts in seconds. Now he could only kill them one by one. 3 heads. Luoxia's vision shook slightly, and he calmed down. The gradually shaking vision stabilized in his sight. There are still 7 heads. Kill! He forced himself to be energetic and rushed up again with the longsword raised. In fact, facing these star beasts, the best way is to reduce the body size. But after Fa Tian Xiangdi reduced the body size, it only increased the speed, and the improvement in combat power was very small. If Luoxia does not increase his combat power now, he will not be able to kill these star beasts at all. Although shrinking his body can allow him to avoid the siege of the star beasts, he lacks the power to kill the star beasts. So Luoxia can only maintain his huge body. He fought with the remaining 7 star beasts. These star beasts are very strong, cold, and bloodthirsty, and every attack is perfectly coordinated. Injured. Luoxia is finally injured. Terrible. He only started to get injured on the 6th floor of the 7th trial tower. Against the sky, against the sky. The geniuses in the square outside saw that Luoxia was injured under the siege of the star beasts. He was hit by the tail of a star beast, and his huge body was swept away and fell heavily to the ground. If he had not used the law of heaven and earth, his combat power would have increased by 30 times, his defense power would have increased significantly, and he used 32 times the defense amplitude at the critical moment. He would have been killed by that attack just now. This was also the first time that the outside geniuses saw Luoxia injured. In the previous trial space, Luoxia relied on his superb body skills to dodge attacks again and again without any injury. But when he reached the 6th floor of the 7th trial tower, his will had reached its limit, and his concentration and focus had declined sharply. Immortal 13 whispered, if his will had not reached its limit, he could have dodged the attack just now. Yes. Trove next to him blinked and looked at Rorschach, who was trying his best to dodge the attack of the star beast in the picture. Now that he is injured, it is even more impossible for him to pass the 6th level. Now not only has his will reached its limit, but his physical strength is also being lost in large quantities due to his injury. The most important thing is that his secret method of enlarging his body and improving his combat power should have a time limit, right? An immortal whispered, once the time limit is up, can he still kill the remaining star beasts? It stops here. It's a bit regrettable. Yes, I also think that he should be able to pass the 7th trial tower and achieve an unprecedented record. It's already very powerful. It's a miracle to reach the 6th floor of the 7th trial tower. I'm afraid it will be difficult for anyone to surpass it in the future. Wait, look. Suddenly, the voice of an immortal was slightly raised. The other immortals stopped talking and looked at the trial picture when they heard it. After a fierce fight, Luosia's body was seriously injured at this time. His right hand holding the sword was broken, and only 5 of the 7 star beasts were killed by him. Just when the immortals and geniuses thought Luosia was going to be eliminated, Luosia, who was holding the sword with his left hand, suddenly became excited. The next moment, he swung the long sword in his hand, and his roar resounded throughout the trial tower. Open the world. Boom. He was really like a giant who opened the world. The long sword in his hand swung out, and the space was cut open, leaving a crack of thousands of meters. In that terrible crack, it seemed that the embryonic form of a world was born. Ang. The remaining 5 star beasts were covered by Luosia's sword. The next moment, these 5 star beasts were swallowed into the terrible space crack. Kill. Luosia took a deep breath and tried his best to kill the 5 star beasts that fell into the embryonic form of the world. This innate secret method of creating the world is the supreme secret method bestowed by the original will of the universe. It has the most incredible power. Although the 5 star beasts were powerful, they were immediately suppressed by the power in the prototype of the world opened up by Luosia, becoming like lambs to be slaughtered. In an instant, they were killed by Luosia. The immortal beings and geniuses in the outside world were shocked. What kind of secret method is that? It seems that a world was born in the crack of the space. The star beast Kang fell into that world and was suppressed. What kind of secret method is this? It's too powerful. How many trump cards does Luosia have? Every time we think he is going to fail, he takes out a trump card. This guy is too abnormal. The geniuses talked about it. The immortal beings were also surprised and communicated secretly. The last secret method Luosia used was too powerful. There's still a trump card. This kid has too many trump cards. This should be his last trump card, right? After passing the 6th floor, the last floor is a Zerg queen with 100 blood mantises and 1000 green mantises. Those blood mantises and green mantises are extremely powerful, and the breeding speed of the Zerg queen will also be greatly increased. Can he still get through? It's already the last floor. I hope he can really get through. Go ahead. It's come to this point. If you fail in the end, it would be a pity. Yeah, this kid named Rorschach, come on. Originally, the immortal beings and geniuses thought Rorschach would fail. But at this time, they looked at Rorschach, who was teleported to the 7th floor in the picture, and hoped that he could pass. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yoon Song. Chapter 175. Rorschach was teleported to the 7th floor of the trial tower. This 7th level is a desert terrain. Above this desert, there is a ball exuding poisonous gas. The surface of the ball was pitted and filled with venom. When Rorschach teleported over, Zerg warriors with triangular heads immediately emerged from the pitted area. As soon as these Zerg warriors appeared, they immediately attacked Rorschach. Buzz. Rorschach directly activated the heaven and earth to shrink his body. the Zerg Mother Queen herself is not powerful. As long as she is eliminated, the Zerg warriors will not be afraid. Entering these Zerg warriors will only waste your energy in vain. When Rorschach was teleported to the 7th floor, he had an idea in his mind. At this time, he exploded with all his strength. After shrinking his body, he immediately used 2 times the talent enhancement, opened the divine speed field and kamikaze kick, and finally exploded to a speed of 32 times. The origin law of wind. The origin of time. With the blessing of a series of powers, Rorschach's speed reached the extreme. He rushed past the Zerg warriors and rushed directly to the mother nest. Approaching the nest, Rorschach immediately launched his strongest attack at present, the creation of heaven and earth. The extremely solid mother nest was cut open by him, revealing the Zerg Mother Queen inside. This Zerg Mother Queen is all white and crystal clear, with transparent butterfly wings, and her face is shrouded in mist. Vaguely, Luoxia heard the sound of Mimi. At the same time, a vision appeared before my eyes. If it were an ordinary person, he would probably be pulled into the illusion by the Zerg Mother Queen and then be killed by the Zerg warriors. But Rorschach's soul is too powerful. Moreover, he also practiced the Tower of the Void left by teacher Hu Yanbo. This Tower of the Void is a secret method to protect the soul. It has 7 levels in total. Luo Feng has cultivated to the 2nd level, and Luo Xia has cultivated to the 4th level. The soul defense is extremely strong. The spiritual illusion and charm of this Zerg Queen are indeed powerful enough. If it were anyone else, Bolin, the god of death, would probably be hit. But she happened to meet Rorschach. Rorschach's powerful soul and the secret void tower allow him to ignore most illusions. He wasn't hit at all, and his eyes didn't even change. When the Zerg Queen was astonished, Luoxia didn't hesitate at all. He directly pinched his sword fingers and controlled the meteor sword containing the power of law to shoot out. Puff! The Mother Queen of the Zerg race was pierced through the head and died tragically in an instant. The immortal beings and geniuses in the outside square were all shocked. What? Was the Zerg Mother Queen solved like this? Why does it feel like it's simpler than the 6th floor? The Zerg Mother Nest on the 7th floor does look simple, but how many people are like Rorschach who can break through the defenses of those Zerg warriors at extremely fast speeds and reach the Mother Nest directly? Yes, it seems like a simple kill, but Rorschach is actually powerful enough. Because Rorschach has the speed to break through the Zerg warriors, the secret method to break the Zerg Mother Nest, and can withstand the charm and illusion attacks of the Zerg Queen, this is how he can seemingly kill the Zerg Queen easily. Now that Rorschach has killed the Zerg Mother Queen, only those Zerg warriors are left. As long as these Zerg warriors are killed, Rorschach will truly pass the level. The 7th trial tower that no one can pass will finally be cleared by Rorschach today. I feel like we are witnessing history. Indeed, witness history. This is also true. After losing the Zerg Mother Queen, the remaining Zerg warriors are not afraid at all. Rorschach controlled the meteor sword and quickly killed all 1,100 Zerg warriors. Congratulations! Rorschach, you have completed the trials of the 7 trial towers. When Luoxia's will almost collapsed and he could only rely on the meteor sword to stand on the ground, a voice came from the void. This voice was like a spring breeze, instantly soothing Rorschach's mental fatigue and restoring his physical strength, energy, and even will to their peak state. This is the appearance seen by the immortal beings and geniuses in the outside world. In Rorschach's consciousness, he seemed to be transported to the extremely distant ancient times by that voice, and saw a majestic figure standing above the universe and the long river of time. "Who are you?" Rorschach asked. The majestic figure seemed to be smiling, and Rorschach vaguely heard an unreal voice, "One day, you will know." After waiting for the words to fall, Rorschach came back to his senses. He was slightly dazed, and the majestic and vast figure was vaguely left in his mind, but when he thought about it carefully, he couldn't remember anything. Isn't it the original ancestor? Rorschach muttered in his heart. As a reader who has read the original work, he knows that this virtual universe is the incarnation of the original ancestor after he failed to seize the original universe. That is really one of the most awesome bosses in mankind. Buzz. There was a sudden change in the space, and Rorschach came to his senses and found that he had been sent out of the trial space and returned to the square. At this time, everyone in the square was looking at him. These sight lines are so complicated, including hot, surprised, excited, and awe. To name a few. Rorschach blinked and walked towards the genius team of GANU Universe Country. Zioxia, good job. Luo Feng laughed and patted Luo Xia's shoulder. His brother, among millions of geniuses, cleared 7 trial towers by himself. This record is simply amazing. Hanging corpse. You really scared us all. Yes, it's amazing. How did you do it? How can you comprehend so many origin laws? And the level of comprehension of each law is not low. Too abnormal. In GANU Universe, everyone was amazed and talked about Luo Xia. In other places, immortal beings and geniuses were also talking about Luo Xia. The main reason was that Luo Xia's achievements were too amazing. Before the peak finals began, everyone probably thought that Luo Xia's strength had a chance to compete for the first place. But no one expected it. He could leave everyone behind by a long way. Even the death god Bolin, this peerless genius who had a deep understanding of the laws of space, was much dimmer in front of Luo Xia. Savage Rongjun looked at Luo Xia with burning eyes and said, "Before coming here, I wanted to fight you one-on-one, but now it seems that you are much stronger than me. I am not your opponent for the time being. But it is only temporary." After a pause, he declared excitedly, "Luo Xia, you'd better not relax. I will definitely catch up with you in the future. Even surpass you." Luo Xia smiled and nodded, "I won't relax. It's not easy to catch up with me." After a conversation, Immortal 13 suddenly sent a message. "Come to building 0825 to gather." Luo Xia and the others looked at each other, and then flew towards building 0825. Not long after, they arrived at the gate of the building. Immortal 13, wearing a scale armor robe, was standing with a smile on his face. His smile surprised the geniuses of GANU Universe. You know, after coming here from GANU continent, this immortal has never smiled at them. But now he is smiling so brightly. This time, our team from GANU Universe performed very well. The Immortal 13 said with a smile. In addition to Luo Xia winning the first place in points, Luo Feng and Rongjun also ranked in the top 100, and directly obtained the qualification to enter the core layer of the Virtual Universe Company, and there are 3 people ranked in the top 7,300, who can compete for the last 900 places. As for the others, he glanced at the other geniuses and sighed a little. He would not show such an expression at ordinary times. But he was very happy today, so he didn't care about these details. The immortal being calmed down slightly and said, "Except for Luo Xia and the other 6 people, your top genius battle ends here. You can return to reality directly, or you can wait for a while and be sent back by the system." When these words came out, many people looked a little dazed, and then looked at Luo Xia in unison. They didn't know why they looked at Luo Xia at this time. But they did feel too much shock and miracles from Luo Xia during this time. They all had this thought in their minds. Our journey here is over. But his journey has just begun. Come on, Luo Xia. You are the pride of our GANU Universe. I rarely admit defeat to others. But in this genius battle, I admit defeat to you the most. You are the undisputed first in this genius battle. Suddenly, they all spoke up and said to Luo Xia. Luo Xia was slightly surprised. He didn't expect these geniuses to say these words to him. He smiled and nodded, and responded, "Thank you." Most of these geniuses chose to leave directly. Some chose to stay in this continent and wait for the system to send them back. The immortal being looked at Luoxia and said, Luoxia, Luofeng, all 6 of you, follow me. As he said, he strode into the building. Luoxia and the others followed behind. I'm sorry everyone, I had some things in reality today, and I was busy for a long time. I didn't get home until after 9 o'clock in the evening. That's all I have today. I'm very sorry. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yoon Song. Chapter 176. After Luoxia completely passed the 7th trial tower, the geniuses quickly regained their composure after the initial surprise and shock. They looked at Luoxia's figure, and a raging fire of fighting spirit ignited in their eyes. Although these geniuses were shocked by the strength Luoxia showed, they were not defeated. Because no matter how powerful Luoxia is now, he is only at the star level. After the star level, there are universe level, domain master level, realm master level. The more you practice, the more difficult it is. They have enough time to catch up with Luoxia and surpass him. As the most powerful geniuses selected from their respective universe countries, they have such confidence. And in the outside world, many people have gone crazy because of Luoxia's ranking. Especially the countless people in the hundreds of millions of galaxies of the Ganwu universe country, they are so excited. Many people are unrestrained and screaming loudly, venting the shock and excitement in their hearts. First, the geniuses from their Ganwu universe country won the first place in the ranking of human geniuses in the universe. That's competing with hundreds of millions of geniuses. The genius of their Ganwu universe kingdom won the first place. This is the supreme honor. In the Black Dragon Mountain Empire, people are even more crazy. They looked at Luoxia's ranking, still unable to believe it, with a trance on their faces like a dream. Our Black Dragon Mountain Empire actually has a genius who can win the first place in the overall universe ranking. Oh my god. This is the overall universe ranking. A competition for hundreds of millions of geniuses. Yes. It's too crazy. Too exciting. Too exciting. What should I say? Luoxia, I love you. The eternal pride of our Black Dragon Mountain Empire. Luoxia, too strong. Incomparably powerful. The entire country of the Black Dragon Mountain Empire seemed to be stunned by this news. Countless citizens were excited and crazy. Some businessmen were so happy that they announced on the spot that everyone who spent money in their stores in the next month would get a 10% discount. While the citizens were reveling, the top leaders of the Black Dragon Mountain Empire were also very excited. The Emperor of the Empire announced on the spot that except for the galaxy where the royal family was located, the rest of the galaxies within the territory would be left to Luoxia to choose, and he could choose 10 galaxies as his territory. As for Luofeng, who won the 4th place, the Emperor directly announced that the Milky Way would belong to Luofeng from today. On Earth, the people who had already contacted the universe, those high-level leaders, all received this news. They were very unbelievable. The Emperor of the Black Dragon Mountain Empire was going to give Luoxia 2 galaxies. Luofeng became the Lord of the Milky Way. Lord of the Milky Way. Why did Luofeng suddenly become the Lord of the Milky Way? Did he become the Master of the Realm? This is impossible. How old is Luofeng? How could he be the Master of the Realm? Compared with the news that Luoxia obtained 2 galaxies, the news that Luofeng became the Lord of the Milky Way made the leaders on Earth more concerned. Before, they were very dissatisfied with the fact that Luofeng was the Lord of the Earth. They felt, why can't people from my beautiful country be the Lord of the Earth? My country India should be the Lord of the Earth. Such thoughts and ideas are prevalent in the minds of these Earth leaders. It's just that due to the strength of Luo Xia and Luo Feng, these leaders dare not say it out loud. Now, Luo Feng has suddenly become the Lord of the Milky Way from the Lord of the Earth, which directly makes them confused. For example, Luo Feng's change of identity is equivalent to a person who was a grassroots employee of the government before, and suddenly became the president of a country the next day. This identity leap made them very shocked and confused. At the same time, the dissatisfaction in their hearts also became loud. Damn it! It's okay if Luo Feng is the Lord of the Earth. Why is the entire Milky Way Luo Feng's now? Do those cosmic people really take us seriously? Although we are also Earthlings. But we are not yellow-skinned. Not Chinese. We are different from Luo Feng. When making such a decision, shouldn't we consult the opinions of people like us? At least we can't let a galaxy belong to one person. At least let us form a joint government to jointly manage the Milky Way, right? Many people had such thoughts in their minds. Some people planned to contact Luo Hongguo and Gong Xinlan to convey the idea of forming a joint government to jointly govern the Milky Way to Luo Feng. They believed that Luo Feng, a young man in his 30s, had no experience in governing a huge galaxy. And these old guys, although they had never governed a galaxy, they diligently governed the Earth and the base city, and they had more governance experience than Luo Feng, a rookie. Didn't the Chinese father say, governing a country is like cooking a small meal? There must be no problem applying the governance experience on Earth to the governance of a galaxy. They have experience. Everyone, before you act, I may have to popularize science for everyone. What exactly does this so-called cosmic genius war represent? But just before these stupid guys acted, a blonde lady stood up and stopped their stupid behavior. I believe that after listening to my introduction, you will understand how amazing the achievements of Luo Xia and Luo Feng are, and how noble their status is now. In China, the top executives were all very excited when they heard the results of Luo Xia and Luo Feng. Luo Xia was given 10 star systems, and Luo Xia was allowed to choose. The Emperor of the Black Dragon Mountain Empire was really willing to give. Luo Xia won the first place in the genius battle. Only 10 star systems, which is completely incomparable to the benefits Luo Xia brought to the Black Dragon Mountain Empire. That's right. With Luo Xia's achievements, he is destined to grow up and become a strong man in the future. The Black Dragon Mountain Empire can be regarded as investing in the future. Ha ha ha. Who cares if he invests or not? Luo Xia and Luo Feng are our Chinese. Since they became warriors, they have brought us too much glory. Yes, they really fought for our Earth and our China. Although we are called natives in the universe. But as natives, we have two geniuses who crushed other geniuses in the universe and won the first and fourth place. Luo Xia and Luo Feng are our pride. Luo Xia and Luo Feng, who are still in the virtual plane, naturally don't know the commotion after the ranking news spread. At this time, they were listening to the lecture of the immortal 13th Master. What ended today was just the trial. Starting tomorrow, there will be a qualification battle. You three must work hard and strive to get a good result like Luo Xia and Luo Feng. The other three geniuses who ranked in the top 7,300 smiled bitterly when they heard this. Sir, are you kidding? Like Luo Xia and Luo Feng, who can do this? Even if these two brothers fight in the ring, their strength will definitely be ranked in the top 10. Okay, you three go down first. 13 waved his hand. Luo Xia, Luo Feng, and Rong Jun stay. Yes, Sir 13. The three retreated. Immortal 13 then looked at Luo Xia and the other two. He first kept his eyes on Luo Xia, nodded with a smile, and said loudly. Not bad. Very good. I didn't expect that you, a child, have such strong strength. First. You actually won the first place. And you passed 7 trial towers and won the first place with a crushing attitude. Good. Good. Luo Xia, now the trial is over, you can have a good rest. I won't say much, you go to rest first. Rorschach was very surprised by the affability of Immortal 13. When this lord first met, he had a cold face and put pressure on his genius at every turn. Now he suddenly becomes so easy to talk to. Tisk. Rorschach shook his head slightly and glanced at his eldest brother Luo Feng. Seeing that his eldest brother nodded slightly, Luo Xia saluted and said, Master 13, then I will go down to rest first. Well, go and have a good rest. Master 13 waved his hand with a smile on his face. After Luo Xia left, he regained his cold expression and looked at Luo Feng and Rong Jun, 4th, 15th. Do you two feel a little proud in your hearts and think you are very strong? This adult's attitude has changed too much, right? Luo Feng muttered in his heart, and answered with Rong Jun, no. Trials don't mean anything. 13 said lightly, trials don't mean anything, but if you can pass all the trial towers like Luo Xia, it can still mean something. Let's not talk about this. You are still keeping calm and not being overwhelmed by the current achievements. Tomorrow, in addition to the top 7,300 geniuses who will compete for the last 900 qualifications, you who are ranked in the front will also have a one-on-one duel in the ring to decide the strongest first place. So now, you should also go down to rest and prepare well. The higher the ranking, the greater the benefits. Yes, Master 13. Luo Feng and Rong Jun saluted and slowly retreated. On the other side, Luo Xia had returned to his room. His spiritual will was replenished and restored by a strange force when he passed the 7th trial tower. Now he is full of energy. Who is that figure? Luo Xia was a little concerned about the figure he saw at the last moment. That figure was so majestic, billions of stars were crawling at his feet, and the whole person seemed to be standing at the end of the universe and the end of time. Forget it. Whoever he is, it has nothing to do with me now. Luo Xia shook his head, shook off the vague figure in his mind, and began to sleep. The next morning, Luo Xia woke up early and went out with Luo Feng to the central square. Brother, what did the 13th master say when he left you and Rong Jun yesterday? Luo Xia asked curiously. Luo Feng smiled and shook his head. He didn't say anything, just warned us not to be complacent, and then said that there would be a one-on-one ring showdown today. Oh. Luo Xia nodded. While the two brothers were talking, they had already arrived at the square. At this time, there were only about 7,000 people left in the central square, and everyone was standing alone or in groups of 3 or 4, and the atmosphere was a little heavy. It's too late. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 177. Luo Xia and Luo Feng stood in the square. The two brothers whispered, discussing the upcoming ring battle. Diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit, diamond suit. Luo Feng said, I don't know how this ring battle will be held. Luo Xia guessed, maybe it will be ranked according to points. Because the memory is too old, he doesn't remember some details of the genius battle very clearly. Arrange the two sides according to the points ranking. Luo Feng frowned, I don't think it's possible. After all, how to arrange them? The first one against the last one? The second one against the second to last one? Luo Xia touched his chin. It doesn't make any sense to arrange the opponents like this. It's possible that the system of the virtual universe directly selects and matches them. Luo Feng was surprised. The system of the virtual universe matches the opponents? Will this work? Most people will be dissatisfied, right? Luo Xia smiled and said, Brother, you have to know that the system of the virtual universe can simulate the origin laws of the real world 100%. Do you think it will not be able to fairly match two opponents of similar strength? Luo Feng heard this, thought about it, and said solemnly, you are talking about, I just remembered how amazing the system of this virtual universe is, It can even simulate the origin laws. If it is used to arrange and match the duel, there will definitely be no problem. As the two brothers talked, they suddenly felt a huge pressure. A figure suddenly appeared in the air in the square. It was the Nine Swords Venerable who notified them to enter the trial space not long ago. Venerable. The immortal beings in the square bowed and saluted. Luoxia and the others also hurriedly followed suit. The Nine Swords Venerable, wearing a green robe, looked at the people below and said with a smile. The trial is over. First of all, congratulations to the contestants ranked 1 to 100. You have obtained the qualification to enter the core layer of the virtual universe company. After a slight pause, he continued, of course, everyone has the right to refuse to join. Now, if there are those who do not want to join our virtual universe company, you can say it directly. We will not force anything. No one spoke off the court. No one who can get to this point is a fool. Seeing that no one quit, the Nine Swords Venerable nodded with satisfaction, okay. Then next, the contestants ranked 101 to 7,300, our system has automatically arranged a ring battle for you based on your performance in the trial tower. Those who win 3 consecutive battles can get a place. The loser will be eliminated. As soon as these words came out, the contestants below were surprised. Someone whispered secretly, winning 3 games in a row can get a place. If 2 strong men meet, isn't it destined to eliminate one? The Nine Swords Venerable saw the concerns of these people and said calmly, the arrangement of the virtual universe system is absolutely the best, no doubt. He looked down at everyone. Now, 7,200 contestants, go to the ring battle. Boom. As soon as the voice fell, an invisible force descended. Except for Luoxia and Luo Feng, who were in the top 100 in points, all other contestants were teleported away. There are seats over there, you can watch the live broadcast there first. The Nine Swords Venerable pointed to a place not far away and said. Luoxia and the others looked in the direction indicated by the Nine Swords Venerable, and saw that there were 100 large chairs and some tables in the place where the Venerable pointed, and there were drinks and food on those tables. Luoxia and his elder brother Luo Feng came to the viewing area and sat down. In front of them, 3,600 screens appeared. Rong Jun sat next to Luoxia. He was huge, and if the chair was not wide enough, he could not sit down. The Howling God clan's Phantom Galsi is on the screen over there. Galsi is a soulless creature on the 3rd and 5th floors of the trial tower, so his best illusion ability is useless, and he is only ranked 189th. Phantom Galsi is the best at illusion, and many immortals think that his strength can be ranked in the top 10. Sure enough, you see, Galsi just glared at the other party, and the battle was over. Too scary. There are many objects worth paying attention to on the screen. And Phantom Galsi is the most eye-catching. As the battle started, the first batch of eliminated players appeared. Many eliminated players were very unwilling. After all, they have come to this step. If they go a little further, they can join the core layer of the virtual universe company. But what if they are unwilling? Strength and talent can only support this step. No matter how unwilling they can only sigh in vain. Fight after battle. Rorschach sat in a chair and watched attentively. Although his strength is generally higher than those players in the picture, watching other people's battles will also bring him a lot of inspiration. Soon, the final 900 places were decided. The Nine Swords Master also appeared in the air again and said to the remaining 1,000 players, congratulations. You are the best 1,000 people in the entire universe human race and 1,008 universe countries in this genius battle. Now, I ask again, is there anyone who is unwilling to join my virtual universe company? If there is, please say it as soon as possible. Silence. No one stood up. Seeing this, the Nine Swords Master nodded again and said, very good, since you have chosen to join our virtual universe company, then we will also do our best to train you. After a pause, he glanced at the 1000 geniuses below, and then continued. But you should understand. Competition will always exist in the universe. You 1000 people will receive different treatment and training resources after joining our virtual universe company. If you want to get the best training resources, you need to be talented enough. Next, I'll make an announcement. Listen carefully. Among the 1000 of you, the 101st to 1000th will receive a bonus of 10 Hunyuan units, can enter the initial universe for enlightenment, and can join the core of my virtual universe company, the apocalyptic secret realm. The 11th to 100th place will receive a bonus of 100 Hunyuan units, can enter the initial universe to comprehend, and can join the core of the company, the secret realm of heaven and earth. The 3rd to 10th place will receive a bonus of 1000 Hunyuan units, can enter the initial universe to comprehend, and can join the core of the company, the secret realm of Teishu. The 1st and 2nd place will receive a bonus of 10,000 Hunyuan units, can enter the initial universe for enlightenment, and can join the core of the company, the original secret realm. I would like to remind you that under normal circumstances, only one person can enter the original secret realm in each session. However, the level of your class is relatively excellent, so the top management of the company has negotiated and will allow 2 of your geniuses to enter the original secret realm quota. Luo Xia and the others listened quietly to the words of the 9 Swords Venerable. They don't know exactly what the 4 secret realms mean, but everyone can understand that the original secret realm is definitely the best one among the 4 secret realms. The Lord of 9 Swords continued, you 1000 people are preparing today. Tomorrow we will start the decisive battle in the arena. We will select the final rankings and the rules of the decisive battle. I have sent them to each of you. After saying that, the 9 Swords Venerable disappeared directly. The immortal beings began to discuss it after the Venerable left. Each one sounded surprised. For this year's Genius Battle, the primordial secret realm has actually given 2 places. I guess it's because Rorschach and Bolin are so good that they specifically allocated 2 places, right? Probably. Virtual Universe Company is also generous. While the immortal beings were discussing, Luo Xia and the others were reading the rules sent by the 9 Swords Venerable. The system will select 100 people from the 900 people who have just won the finals to compete in the arena with the people ranked 2nd to 101st. The winning 100 people are eligible to enter the secret realm of heaven and earth. The remaining 900 people all entered the secret realm of the end of the world. Among the 100 winners, the system will again select the best 20 people, and let these 20 people compete in a one-on-one arena to determine the top 10. The top 10 are eligible to enter the secret realm of Teishu. In the end, the top 10 will decide on the strongest person, and they will have a decisive battle with Rorschach, who has the highest points, to determine the 1st and 2nd place. Below is the list of battles. Luo Xia and Luo Feng looked at each other, and Luo Feng said in surprise, Xiao Xia, the system actually asked you to be the one being challenged. Rong Jun looked at Luo Xia from the side and said in a complicated tone, this is normal, he is too strong, and his strength completely exceeds those of us, so the system will arrange for the final winner to compete with Luo Xia. Showdown in the arena. Rorschach blinked. He found that many people in the square were looking at him. Most people's eyes are burning and eager to try, for these geniuses who have watched Rorschach break through the trial tower, they know how powerful Rorschach is. So I don't have any opinions on the arrangement of the system. Of course, I just have no objection to Rorschach's arrangement. The other geniuses who were not scheduled for the decisive battle in the ring had very strong opinions at this time, and they all shouted. How could this be? You don't even give us the qualifications for a decisive battle. Too much. Isn't this too much faith in the system of the virtual universe? I don't accept it. Which genius who has made it this far would be willing to be arranged like this by an illusory system? All of a sudden everyone was in a rage, shouting dissatisfied. A young man with a vertical eye between his eyebrows stood up and shouted. I am 100% sure to break into the top 100, or even the top 20. Why? Why would you exclude me by relying directly on the system of the virtual universe? I don't accept it. I don't accept it. Following his lead, others also shouted angrily. No fair. No fair. In real action, whoever loses will be eliminated. This is only fair. Now we rely on a system to exclude us. We are not willing to accept it. Rorschach watched quietly from the side. He understands how these left-out geniuses feel. But understanding is understanding, and he won't come forward to help. Because he knows very well how powerful the system of the virtual universe is, and the results filtered out by the system are absolutely correct. Not far away, the immortal beings couldn't help but frowned when they saw that these geniuses dared to resist. Shut up. What are you doing? Shut up, everyone. While the immortal beings roared angrily, they released the aura and pressure on their bodies. In an instant, the shouting geniuses seemed to be suppressed by the majestic mountains. After struggling for a moment, each of them knelt on the ground. The three-eyed young man knelt on the ground, still dissatisfied, and shouted, I don't accept it. I don't accept it. The immortal beings looked at him coldly. 13 from the Kinwu Universe Kingdom said coldly, Idiot. At this time, a misty voice came. If you have any objections to the arrangement of the decisive battle in the virtual universe system, you can choose not to join our virtual universe company. I have said that our company will not force anyone to participate. As soon as these words came out, the geniuses lying on the ground turned pale. This is also too cruel. Luo Feng couldn't help but shook his head and said. The other geniuses also showed expressions of disbelief. As geniuses of their respective universe nations, even their universe rulers attach great importance to their opinions. In the view of geniuses like them, the dual rules set by Virtual Universe Company are excessive, and everyone's request for a fair fight should be agreed to. But, as one of the 5 giants in the universe, Virtual Universe Company doesn't want to mess with them at all. Just one sentence. If you want to join my Virtual Universe Company, then you must abide by the rules we set. If you can't abide by our rules, then leave. We don't force you. This is powerful. Also very high and mighty. Completely in line with the style of Virtual Universe Company. An immortal existence said coldly, how stupid. Can you little guys change the decisive battle rules made by the top management of Virtual Universe Company? Don't take yourself too seriously. Another immortal said, if it were the child Rorschach who put forward his opinions, he might still be taken seriously. As for you, an immortal being with white hair said indifferently, you remember, although you are all the top geniuses in your respective universe countries, in the Virtual Universe Company, who do you count? Virtual Universe Company holds a genius war for the stellar level every 10,000 years, and they have attracted countless geniuses. Do you think that Virtual Universe Company insists on you, or do you have to join Virtual Universe Company? It is a taboo to go against the decision of the highest level. Immortals chastised these geniuses. They all know that all of these geniuses have outstanding talents, and many of them have greater tempers as their talents increase. But the road to genius is not easy. It would be good for them to take some hits early. Speaking of which, Rongjun, do you know anything about the secret realm of Virtual Universe Company? On the way back to the building, Luo Feng asked Rongjun beside him. There were still 6 people left in their team before. But the other 3 were eliminated in today's arena showdown. At this time, only Luo Xia, Luo Feng, and Rongjun were left. Rongjun's eyes flashed and he said, I understand a little bit. I heard that the original secret realm is the best secret realm in Virtual Universe Company. Only those with the best talent can enter. He looked at Luo Xia and Luo Feng and continued, You should also know that Virtual Universe Company is one of the 5 giants in the universe. Luo Xia and Luo Feng nodded. Rong Jun said, there are tens of thousands of giants like this, immortal level powerhouses, and countless world lord level powerhouses. But even if there are so many world lords, there are only 100 world lords in the original secret realm. Luo Feng was surprised, there are only 100 world masters in the original secret realm. Rong Jun nodded, so you too understand how special it is for the original secret realm to absorb 2 members this time. He looked at Rorschach and said, if nothing else happens, one of the spots should go to Rorschach, but there is 1 spot left, and I will definitely fight for it. Sorry everyone, I have been busy with worldly affairs these past 2 days, so the updates are not very good. I am very sorry to everyone. I sincerely apologize to everyone. I will resume the previous updates tomorrow and reward everyone for your subscriptions, tips, and votes. That's all for today, thank you everyone. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 178. After separating from Rong Jun, the 2 brothers withdrew from the virtual universe. Rightward arrow. Now that the final 1,000 geniuses have been selected, Rorschach and the others have been allowed to exit the virtual universe. In the villa in Minjiao community, Yangzhou. Rorschach and Luo Feng woke up at the same time. Babata flew forward and said excitedly to Rorschach and Luo Feng, Rorschach, I knew you could do it. Ha ha ha, even that Bolan can't compare to you. After praising Luo Xia, she looked at Luo Feng and praised, Luo Feng is not bad. He was able to rank 4th in the standings. It's amazing. I didn't expect you to do this. In order to prepare for the Virtual Universe Company's genius battle with peace of mind, the 2 brothers moved into the gravity chamber. So now my family is not around either. Rorschach asked the number 9 intelligent control robot to bring tea, took a sip, and then asked Babata, Babata, is there any information about the 4 secret realms of Virtual Universe Company in your database? Babata's eyes flashed, a stream of data flashed by, and then he said, yes, but it is all information that can be found by the outside world. Luo Feng nodded and said, Babata, please tell me. Babata then said, let me just talk about the information about the original secret realm. From the information that can be found, for Virtual Universe Company, those who can enter the original secret realm must have talents and qualifications that are very, very, very talented. She used 3 very words in a row to emphasize the difficulty of entering the original secret realm. Then, he added, Virtual Universe Company will spend a lot of precious resources to cultivate geniuses who enter the original secret realm. Luo Feng asked, how many resources are there? Does any teacher have a lot of property? Hearing this, Babata smiled bitterly and said, how can your teacher be compared with Virtual Universe Company? You know, even the leader of the Gansha Universe Kingdom who is stronger than your teacher will bow before Virtual Universe Company. A behemoth like the Virtual Universe Company will make very strict plans to cultivate geniuses in the original secret realm, and the resources and property they spend, are simply not comparable to your teacher's assets. Luo Feng nodded, glanced at Luo Xia, and continued, sure enough, the original secret realm is the best secret realm, but only the 1st and 2nd place can enter. Babata nodded, according to the rules sent to you by the Virtual Universe Company, Rorschach has locked in the original secret realm in advance, because no matter whether he loses in the end, the original secret realm will absorb him. Yes, Luo Feng nodded, smiled, and patted Luo Xia on the shoulder, my Xioxia is really up to date. Babata said, Luo Feng, don't be discouraged. According to the information I found, the qualifications to enter the original secret realm are not once and for all. There is a competitive elimination system. She looked at Rorschach, if someone in the original secret realm cannot achieve the goals set by the Virtual Universe Company and complete the training plan, he will be eliminated and enter the Taisha's secret realm. Then the geniuses in the Taisha's secret realm can also join the original secret realm through competition. Babata spoke in a sonorous tone, encouraging Luo Xia and Luo Feng, so. If you want to enjoy the top resources, you must keep working hard. Because behind you, there are a large number of top geniuses eyeing your position. Once you relax, you will, if someone overtakes you, pull him down. Luo Xia nodded and said, it's like sailing against the current, if you don't advance, you will retreat. Luo Feng also nodded and said with excitement, this kind of life is exciting enough. Babata glanced at Rorschach, and then said, based on the current points ranking, the other person to enter the original secret realm should be the guy named Death God Bolan. Luo Feng touched his chin, I heard from Rong Jun that the Death God Bolan was very powerful. He also reached the first floor of the 7th trial tower and had a very high understanding of the laws of space. Unfortunately, I was trying to break through at the time. I didn't see him fighting. Babata said, according to what you said, when he broke into the first floor of the 7th trial tower, he left thousands of phantom bodies in the space. With this kind of strength, his understanding of the laws of space has reached an extreme level. A profound state. If it weren't for Rorschach, he would have been the #1 genius in the human race in the universe in the past tens of millions of years. After all, you have to know that the superior law is the most difficult original law to comprehend, and it is even more difficult to comprehend it in the star level period. He can comprehend the space law to that extent at the star level. He is definitely a genius. The genius in it? Luo Feng nodded. He knows how difficult it is to understand the laws of space. If it weren't for the Demon Killer clan's clone, he might not have stepped into the threshold of space law until now. As for the god of death, Bolan, at this time, he has raised his understanding of the laws of space to a level that many world masters cannot match. It's really scary. Having said this, Babata looked at Rorschach, smiled proudly, and said. Unfortunately, he met Rorschach, so he had to settle for second place. Because Rorschach was more powerful than him. He understood 3 lower laws, 2 of which were recognized by the original laws, and he understood all the upper laws, especially it is the law of space, and it is even more powerful than Bolan. At the beginning, I said that Rorschach was a miracle for mankind on Earth, but now, I think he should be a miracle for mankind in the entire universe. Babata really thinks so. She has never seen anyone better than Rorschach. Being recognized by 2 original laws at the stellar level, who else can do it besides Rorschach? When Luo Xia became his disciple, Babata felt that Luo Xia had a very high talent for understanding, but it was the physical genes of Earthlings that limited him. If he could have a better bloodline, his future achievements would definitely surpass his master Huanbo. Who would have thought that Luo Xia would have an unknown adventure later, and he would have raised his life genes to the same level as the golden horned beast? After this defect was made up, Luo Xia was just like the Chinese proverb, the sea is wide for fish to leap, and the sky is wide for birds to fly. The next morning, in the central square of the decisive battle plain, 1,000 peerless geniuses gathered. Luo Xia and Luo Feng mixed in the crowd and looked at the 3-eyed young man in the distance. He was the guy who dared to roar at the immortal existence and the virtual universe company yesterday. At this time, he stood with a gloomy face, and his whole body exuded a low-pressure breath. It seems that yesterday's blow was quite big for him, Luo Xia whispered. Luo Feng said, I hope he can survive. As he spoke, the familiar powerful breath descended. Luo Xia and Luo Feng looked up and saw the 9 Swords Master appear. Master! The geniuses and immortal beings all saluted respectfully. The 9 Swords Master in the air nodded slightly and said to the geniuses, today is a good day. We will select the top 100, top 10, first and second place from the 1,000 of you within one day. He paused slightly and then asked, are you all ready? Except for those who were excluded from the ring battle, all the geniuses nodded in high spirits. Then, the decisive battle begins now. He waved his hand, and 100 huge rings immediately appeared in the central square. The edge of each ring was covered with black silk screens, and the contestants who were in the first round of the decisive battle were teleported into the ring. Luo Feng was also teleported to a ring as soon as possible. Luo Xia came to the side of the ring and cheered for his elder brother. Luo Feng's opponent was a player ranked 113th in the trial, named Utvisk, nicknamed Wild Wind, who also comprehended the law of the origin of wind. There is nothing much to say about this match. Luo Feng, who often practices with Luo Xia, knows how to deal with players who have comprehended the law of the origin of wind. In less than 3 rounds, Utvisk was defeated by Luo Feng. Brother is awesome. Luo Xia shouted at Luo Feng standing on the ring. Luo Feng smiled at him, and then waited for the verdict of the 9 Swords Master. Soon after, the voice of the 9 Swords Master resounded in every ring. Congratulations to the little guys standing on the ring, you have successfully entered the top 100 and can enter the secret realm of heaven and earth of my virtual universe company. Next, we will select the 20 best people among you. According to the selection of the virtual universe system, I will report the list of 20 people. As soon as these words came out, the geniuses who were still on the ring became nervous. Although they entered the top 100. But only 20 of them will compete for the top 10. No one among those who stayed wanted to be eliminated. But, reality is cruel. Bolin, Gusro, Icon. The 9 Swords Master called out the names one by one. When all 20 names were called out, many people showed unwilling expressions. The players whose names I called can go down to rest. The next battle will start in a while. As for who your opponent is, you will know when you fight. Bar Book 69 New. Hearing this, Luo Feng left the ring. The other players also left the ring and went downstairs to rest and adjust their breathing. Candida, congratulations on making it to the top 100. Stop talking. Although I made it to the top 100, I am not on the list of the last 20. I am not willing to accept this. You are not willing to accept this, but I am not willing to accept this either. I don't even have a fighting chance to make it to the top 100. There is no other way. This is the decision made by the virtual universe system. Do you think that the virtual universe system that can simulate the laws of origin will make a mistake in your judgment? As soon as these words came out, the players who wanted to complain in the square fell silent. Luo Feng was taking the time to adjust his breath, and Luo Xia did not bother him. Half an hour later. Rumble. The entire central square shook. In the center of the square, 10 giant arenas reappeared. The moment the arena appeared, Luo Feng and his team were teleported to the arena. The geniuses watching the game below exclaimed when they saw the pairs of players on the arena. Blood Axe Tao is also tragic. He actually met the god of death Bolin. Everyone is guessing who will be the opponent of the god of death Bolin, but it turned out to be Blood Axe Tao. With his strength, he can never be the opponent of Bolin. No matter what, the god of death Bolin is the second place who broke into the 7th trial tower and killed thousands of blood-haired mammoths. Among us, the only one who can fight Bolin is the first place, Luo Xia, right? The last battle should be Luo Xia versus the god of death Bolin, right? I am looking forward to it. On the field, the battle has already started. Blood Axe Tao is no match for the god of death Bolin at all, and was quickly defeated by Bolin. On the other side, Luo Feng's battle ended quickly. The opponent he met was the Phantom Galsi, a player who was very good at illusions. According to the immortal existence, Galsi's strength could break into the top 10. However, Luo Feng had the Tower of Void to defend against soul attacks, and his willpower was extremely strong. He broke away almost the moment Galaxy cast his illusion, and then used the 6 Paths illusion sword style to kill the phantom demon Galaxy to pieces. During daily training, Luo Feng would also fight against Melissa. In the battle with Melissa, he had already mastered the skills of how to fight the illusionist. The illusionist Galaxy was stronger than Melissa. But Luo Feng had cultivated a two-story tower of void, and his own willpower was extremely strong, so the illusion of the phantom demon Galaxy had no effect on Luo Feng. As soon as Luo Feng fell into the illusion, he used the tower of void and willpower to destroy the illusion. The geniuses off the field were a little surprised that Luo Feng could defeat the demon Galaxy. The immortal beings were also a little surprised. Many immortal beings, including 13, felt that Luo Feng was going to lose to the phantom demon Galaxy. Unexpectedly, Luo Feng actually won. And he won completely. Being able to wake up the moment he fell into an illusion, it seems that his willpower is also very strong. He is indeed Luo Xia's brother, and his talent is indeed very good. An immortal being said with praise. After Luo Feng won, the duel between the others was quickly decided. Rong Jun, who came from the Qinwu Universe Kingdom with Luo Xia, finally won. The one he was fighting against was the genius named Guthro. Their battle lasted the longest, everyone else had finished dueling, and they were still fighting. Rong Jun's sword skills were very powerful, attracting the attention of many geniuses. After all 10 contestants were selected, the 9 Swords Venerable appeared and said to everyone, "Congratulations to the 10 winners. If you enter the top 10, your bonus will be increased to 1000 Hunyuan units, and you will be able to enter the secret realm of Taishu." He glanced at Luo Feng and the other 10 people with a smile on his face. The battle for the top 10 this time was very exciting. I was also very surprised by the explosion of a few little guys. Congratulations again. Next, we will select the top 5 among you, and then select one player from the top 5 to play against Rorschach, who ranks first in points. The Master of 9 Swords said the last thing and glanced at Luo Xia. Then, he looked at Luo Feng and the others and said, "You 10 people, the next battle will be divided according to the time when your battle ends. For example, the fastest one will compete with the slowest one. The fastest versus the second to last slowest, and so on." As soon as these words came out, the geniuses were surprised and looked at Bolan and Rong Jun. With this arrangement, wouldn't these 2 people have to fight? Okay, you all should rest first. Lord Nine Swords said, and then he disappeared. Luo Xia stood beside Luo Feng and looked towards his elder brother's opponent. He saw that he was a sturdy young man wearing a horn helmet. He had a restrained aura and looked very low-key. "Brother, you have to be careful, this Long Yun is very powerful," Rorschach reminded. To be honest, he could no longer remember Luo Feng's final ranking in this talent competition. "So I don't know if Luo Feng will lose to Long Yun." Luo Feng's face was slightly solemn and he said, "I heard that when he played against others, he only revealed one law, the law of the origin of Earth. He is the only player in this genius battle who uses a single law." Rorschach analyzed, only using one law of Earth does not mean that he has only understood this one law. In my opinion, he should also have understood the law of space. Although the degree of understanding is not as good as Bolan and me, it's also very high. After a slight pause, he said, "And Long Yun can reach this point using only one law. His understanding of the law of Earth must be extremely high, which should be higher than Rong Jun's. Brother, you must be extremely careful." Luo Feng nodded, "I understand." Half an hour later, 5 arenas rose up in the central square. Luo Feng and the others were teleported into the arena and the duel began. As Luo Xia expected, Long Yun understood the laws of space. Moreover, his power of space law can be integrated into his domain together with the power of the original law of Earth, making it very powerful. Luo Feng and Long Yun fought hard, and finally used the heaven-piercing style of the ancient weapon, but they were still defeated. As the aperture on the ring narrowed, Luo Feng's range of activities also became smaller. In the end, he lost to Long Yun. At the same time, battles in other arenas also determine the winner. Bolan vs Rongjun, Bolan wins. Sensui vs Opatra, Sensui wins. General Mo fights Ai Chen wins. Lancelot vs Uka, Uka wins. After the 5 winners are determined, one winner will be selected from these 5 winners to fight against Rorschach. After a break, the ring battle continued. The next battle is for 5 people to fight separately. The person with the most wins will be qualified to fight Rorschach. In the end, Bolan won the victory without any surprise and became the first among the 5 to fight against Rorschach. In an instant, everyone's eyes were on Luoxia and Bolan. Tell me, who will win between these two? Rorschach, you must know that Rorschach has passed the 7th trial tower, but Bolan has not even passed the 1st floor of the 7th trial tower. A trial is nothing. Only one-on-one combat can reveal a person's true level. I think Bolan may win. Are you kidding? Let's analyze them one by one. First, in terms of domain, both of them are in the domain of the law of wind, but Luoxia's domain is an extremely rare domain of super speed, which can be compared to the top domain of time. Both of them are in the 9th level, and at this level of domain, the two are evenly matched. Then in terms of secrets, the opponent of the god of death, Baran, hardly forced out his secrets, so it is unknown how many secrets Baran has and how powerful they are. But you should have seen that the secrets that Luoxia used in the trial tower are definitely at the top level of secrets, and many secrets are the methods all seem to directly enhance combat power. In terms of secret methods, I think Luoxia is stronger than Bolan. Finally, in terms of the perception of the laws, Luoxia has comprehended 3 lower laws, 2 of which have been recognized by the origin law, and all the higher laws have been comprehended. Among them, I think the perception of the law of space is not worse than that of the god of death Bolan. In terms of the law, I think Luoxia is a complete winner, no problem. After listening to your analysis, Luoxia is really stronger than Bolan. That's for sure. As everyone discussed and expected, a huge arena appeared in the central square, and Luoxia and Bolan were teleported to the arena. I'm late, sorry. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yoon Song. Chapter 179. On the ring in the central square, Luoxia and Bolan stood on one side, facing each other. 2 people. One wore black armor and held a golden meteor sword. One wore white clothes and held a blood-red long sword in his hand. Off the field, whether it was geniuses or immortal beings, they were all watching them. Everyone held their breath. They all knew that today's battle between Luoxia and Bolan was probably the most exciting battle of geniuses in the past tens of millions of years. Everyone was looking forward to it. On the ring, Luoxia and Bolan were also watching each other. There was no referee or host in this ring battle. When they were teleported to the ring, the battle had already begun. Neither of them started immediately. But their chi was still fighting. Huh. Suddenly, a breeze blew on the ring. It was like a horn. At the moment it suddenly rose, the wind on the ring howled, and Bo Ian's white clothes were blown like a lonely and proud white crane spreading its wings. It is worth mentioning that Bolan is also a player who has comprehended the law of the origin of wind. But his level of understanding of the origin of the wind is not as good as Rorschach's. Of course, in terms of the law of space, Bolan's perception is not as good as Rorschach's. You know, Rorschach's current understanding of the law of space has reached the level where he can cut through space without using creation of heaven and earth. But Bolan, he just left an illusion in the space and couldn't cut through the space. Buzz. Suddenly, the strong wind on the ring stopped. At this most silent moment, Rorschach and Bolan disappeared at the same time. The geniuses watching below only felt their eyes blurred, and a thunderous roar suddenly exploded from the ring, making their ears buzz. Hiss, are these the first and second place? So scary. My eyes can't keep up with them. How fast is this? Bolin is also a player who is good at speed. After watching the scene of Rorschach passing the 7th trial tower, he knew how powerful Rorschach was. It was a kind of power that made him tremble with excitement. He had to go all out. So at the beginning, he used all his strength. In Luo Feng's sight, they could not catch the figures of Luo Xia and Bolan at all. They could only see a golden and blood-colored collision from time to time, bursting out a thunderous roar. These two little guys are only at the star level, and they can burst into such a battle. Awesome. The talent is too outstanding. Luo Xia and Bolan, their strength far exceeds that of other geniuses. The immortal beings were also whispering about the battle between Luo Xia and Bolan. Now, only the immortals can see the battle between Luo Xia and Bolan clearly. After Bolan used all his strength, the eyesight of the geniuses could not keep up. Boom boom boom. Collision after collision. Every time a collision occurs, violent energy radiates from the center of the collision to the surroundings. Boom. Another collision, Luo Xia and Bo Ian's swords are against each other, and they start wrestling. Crack. In the wrestling between the two, the power, laws, domains, and other aspects of both sides began to clash. Lightning flashed around the two. That was the strange phenomenon caused by the collision of the aura and energy of both sides. Crack, crack. Suddenly, in the astonished eyes of the crowd, cracks appeared on the ring where the two stood. The geniuses were stunned. Luo Feng and his team had fought on the ring before and knew how strong the ring was. Even if they burst out with all their strength, they never damaged the ring at all. But now, Luo Xia and Bo Ian's fight caused cracks on the ring. The immortal beings were also surprised. Immortal 13 said solemnly, "If I remember correctly, the endurance of this arena can withstand the full strength burst of the 9th level universe level peak powerhouse without any damage, right?" Yes. Not only the 9th level universe level, even the domain master level, it is impossible to destroy this arena. The power of Luo Xia and Bolan is not amazing. What caused the cracks in the arena at the moment is the collision of their law power. Only a strong law power can destroy the arena. What a terrible law perception. You can exert such a rich and powerful law power at the star level. The immortals were amazed. On the arena, Bolan in white looked at Luo Xia intently. "You are really strong. It's worth my full strength." Luo Xia smiled lightly, looked at the death god Bolan through the gap between the two swords, and said, "I am looking forward to it." Boom. Bolan exploded. He exerted force on the blood-colored long sword in his hand, and retreated from Luo Xia. Then, Bolan's eyes suddenly turned red, like the eyes of a demon in hell, flowing with a strong bloody aura. Scarlet blood light burst out from his body. Boom. The blood light rushed straight into the sky, shaking the ring. Bolan's white clothes were stained with blood. He really seemed to have become the god of death who dominated the underworld. An unparalleled terrifying aura surged all over his body. The geniuses and immortal beings below showed surprised expressions. This seems to be some kind of secret method. The aura of the god of death Bolan is growing. Hiss. So scary. His strength is rapidly increasing. Yes, judging from the aura, Bolan's strength has increased by about 4 times. Terrible. So terrible. Before, the god of death, Baran was very strong. Now his strength has increased 4-fold. Can Luo Xia still cope with him? The geniuses were whispering in surprise. The immortal beings were also secretly surprised, amazed at the secret method used by the god of death, Baran. This secret method is not simple. It is a secret method that burns life and greatly increases strength in a short period of time. It seems that Baran does not want to leave regrets in the battle with Luoxia. You are worthy of being the second genius. On the ring, Luoxia looked at Baran, who was full of blood and looked like the god of death who dominated the underworld, and twisted his neck slightly. Very strong, he whispered, and golden secret patterns suddenly appeared on his body. 2 times enhanced talent. This is a secret method learned from the pronucleus of the golden horned beast. Although it is not as good as Baran's 4-fold combat power increase. But it is enough. Because, Rorschach's normal strength is stronger than Baran. Golden secret patterns appeared all over Luoxia's body, making his aura look less intimidating than that of Bolin, but his aura. The immortal beings narrowed their eyes slightly. This secret method was used by Luoxia in the trial tower. It doesn't seem to improve the combat power much, but it is not as harmful as Bolin's secret method, and there are no side effects. Although Luoxia's secret method cannot greatly improve the combat power, his aura instantly caught up with Bolin after the combat power was improved. This means that under normal circumstances, Luoxia's strength is stronger than Bolin. It is worthy of being a peerless genius who has passed 7 trial towers. On the ring, Bolin's whole body was lingering with scarlet blood, and his cold eyes were burning with blood flames at this time. He stared at Luoxia and spit out a word with murderous intent, "Kill." Swish. After the cold voice fell, he turned into a blood-colored thread and rushed towards Luoxia. Bolin's speed was so fast that the space seemed to be torn apart as he rushed towards Luoxia. Luoxia grinned and rushed out with the meteor sword. The speed of both sides was increased to the extreme. Boom! The moment the two charged, they immediately collided with each other, and the unparalleled power burst out, shaking the bodies of some weaker geniuses below. The ring exploded in the terrible collision. Pieces of it were suspended in the air. Luoxia and Bolin scattered from each other at the moment of the collision, each on one of the pieces of the ring. They only looked at each other for less than a second before rushing towards each other again. Blood Shadow Cross Kill. Whoosh! Bolin exerted the power of the law of space, leaving thousands of phantoms in the space in an instant. These phantoms were extremely real, surrounding Luoxia, and exerting terrible and deadly sword skills, layer by layer, blocking all the space for Luoxia to dodge. Under Bolin's fierce shout, crosses of blood and energy, like scarlet roses, bloomed in the layers of space, beautiful but deadly. Even a cosmic-level strongman would die in hatred under Bolin's move. What a terrible sword skill! This sword skill combines extremely profound space laws. Can Luoxia dodge it? Too strong. If I were Luoxia, I would have no idea how to dodge. Is Luoxia going to lose? Rightward arrow. Luo Feng listened to the discussions of others and suddenly whispered, "Why should my brother hide?" Not far away, the immortal beings suddenly shook their heads. The immortal being 13, wearing a scale armor robe, grinned and said like a declaration, "Luoxia won." As soon as he finished speaking, the situation on the ring changed. On the ring, Luoxia, who was surrounded by Bolin, was like Sun Dashan who was surrounded by 100,000 heavenly soldiers in the myth, but he was not panicked at all, but suddenly grinned at the god of death Bolin. The god of death, Baran, frowned slightly when he saw Rorschach's smile. This guy can still laugh. But he didn't have time to figure out why Rorschach was laughing. Ha! A laugh reached his ears. The next moment, in Baran's sight, a brilliant sword light suddenly lit up between heaven and earth, and this sword light seemed to split the world apart, not as if, but the world was really split apart. In Baran's last vision, he only saw Rorschach waving the long sword in his hand, and then the world was split in half in front of him, and the phantoms he left in space were instantly shattered. His own body was also split in half by Rorschach's sword light. Boom! A terrible space crack stretched across the ring, stretching for several kilometers. The whole picture was like the world suddenly split open its mouth. Horror and horror, Quiet. Silence. The geniuses below stared at the kilometer-long space crack split by Rorschach, and were speechless for a long time. Some immortal beings also opened their mouths slightly. Of course, these immortal beings can split the space at will, and the space they split can be larger and longer than that of Rorschach. But they are immortals. What about Rorschach? He is only at the star level. A star level can split the space so large and so long. This comprehension of the law of space is too profound, right? Even some of the top realm masters are probably not as good as Rorschach in their attainments in the law of space. What a genius of the heaven-defying level. Wow! In the astonished eyes of everyone, Bolin, who had returned to white clothes, appeared in the square. He looked up at Rorschach, who was standing on the broken pieces of the ring. His face was still cold, but his eyes were extremely hot. "Next time, I will definitely win," he said. Rorschach put away the meteor sword and chuckled, "I can accept your challenge at any time." "Accept your challenge." As soon as these words came out, the other geniuses were convinced. Because the strength shown by Death God Bolin just now is definitely not something they can compete with. The last move, Blood Shadow Crosskill, made them not even know how to avoid it. But Rorschach chose to fight head-on, and he just won. Only one sword was used. They are really convinced. I was impressed by the terrifying strength displayed by Rorschach. The Lord of Nine Swords appeared again. He looked at Luoxia and the others with a smile on his face. First, second, third to 10th. The 11th to the 100th. 101 to 1000. All 4 levels have been selected. This year's selection competition for the peak human genius in the universe has come to a perfect end. Lord Nine Swords looked at Luoxia, then at Bolin and the others, and continued. This class of yours is a very outstanding class. I believe that dozens of epochs or even hundreds of epochs later, many of you will be famous throughout the universe. Later, someone will contact you and take you to the universe headquarters of my virtual universe company. You will gather there and then go to the initial universe. From now on, your path will no longer be ordinary. Our virtual universe company will do our best to train and assist you. As for whether you will become a super being famous in the universe, or become an ordinary strong man, or fall halfway, it all depends on you, so work hard. Your road to becoming a strong man has just begun. After the Master of Nine Swords finished speaking, his figure disappeared. And this year's genius battle has officially come to an end. After the Master of Nine Swords left, a staff member arrived and shouted to Luoxia and the others, "Please don't leave for now. There are still some things that need to be negotiated with you about taking you to the universal headquarters of my virtual universe company. Please follow me." Rorschach and the others followed the staff member to restaurant number 2. They sat down in the restaurant, and then the staff member said, "Let me introduce myself to everyone first. My name is Mana. Because our virtual universe company has to arrange a special spaceship to pick you up, so please write down the accurate planet address on the paper in front of you so that we can pick you up." Luoxia and Luofeng both picked up their pens and wrote down the address: Qinwu Universe Country, Black Dragon Mountain Star Region, Milky Way, Balin Star. Because the Earth is still under the protection of Teacher Hu Yanbo's space secret method, it is very troublesome to enter the solar system, so the address filled in by the two brothers is still Balin Star. Rorschach complained, "Why do you have to write it on paper? Dunima is science fiction." After hearing Luoxia's complaints, Luofeng smiled and shook his head. At this time, someone suddenly said, "Why don't you tell us the gathering place, and then we can take the spaceship there ourselves?" "Yeah, there's no need to answer it, it's so troublesome," someone echoed. Mana smiled and said, "The universal headquarters of our virtual universe company is too far away from you. The spacecraft you use can reach several times the speed of light at most. It is simply impossible to reach the headquarters quickly. And you will encounter star thieves and the like on the road, which is extremely dangerous. That's why we will arrange a spaceship to pick everyone up. Everyone became quiet after hearing this. Beep. Collection completed. At this time, a voice sounded, and then, a huge star map appeared in front of Rorschach and the others, with some complex symbols on it. Rorschach glanced at it and relied on his strong understanding to understand everything. He whispered, "Damn, there is a guy here who is 15 billion light-years away from the headquarters of Virtual Universe Company. If he takes a spaceship to the headquarters by himself, it will take at least 150 years to fly. No wonder the company said it would send a spaceship to pick us up." Us. Luo Feng was surprised. Is it so far? He looked at Mana in front of him and whispered, "Mr. Mana just said that the spaceship sent by the company can help us reach the headquarters quickly. So how fast must the spaceship they sent be?" I took a look. The spacecraft they sent can allow us all to arrive at the company's headquarters at the same time in 3 years. Rorschach said. Luo Feng took a breath. So fast? Doesn't this mean that the speed of the spacecraft sent by the company can reach dozens of times the speed of light? Next, as expected, a genius asked how long it would take to reach the headquarters. Mana responded with a smile and said it would be about 3 years. The others were immediately dumbfounded. Just 3 years? Mana explained, the spaceships sent by the company are all F-class, and their technological content is far higher than the F-class spacecraft of various space countries. So you don't have to worry. He paused slightly and continued, by the way, I would like to inform everyone that the bonuses for the top 1,000 geniuses in the competition are now being distributed. You can check your account when you go back later. Now that I have collected your addresses, there is nothing else to do. Everyone can go back. Our company will send a special email to inform you of the exact pickup time. Please wait at the written address on time, so as not to lose sight of you. Then. Mana smiled slightly, goodbye. After that, the staff member of the Virtual Universe Company disappeared directly. Rorschach and his friends did not stay any longer, but left the virtual universe directly. The two brothers woke up in the gravity room. After a mental telepathic sensing, they found that their families were in the virtual universe, so Rorschach and Luo Feng entered the virtual universe again and returned to the villa they bought. Tisk, they are not here either, where did everyone go? Rorschach said puzzledly when he did not see his family in the villa. Luo Feng smiled and said, they should have gone out to play, right? They don't know that today is the day when the genius battle ends. The final duel of the genius battle was not broadcast live in real time. It will be edited after the end, and a beautiful promotional video and some battle videos will be uploaded to the virtual universe. By then, people in the whole universe will see the battle scenes of Rorschach and his friends. Thank you all for your subscriptions, tips, and votes. Thank you very much. Swallowed Star, my understanding is beyond belief. Author, Bo Yun Song. Chapter 180. Your sister-in-law should be in the company. Luo Feng sat down on a chair by the lawn. After the genius battle, he and Luo Xia could finally relax. Luo Xia nodded and sat down on a chair beside him. In the virtual universe, the sky is also blue, with floating clouds, which is very similar to the sky on Earth. This is of course one of the reasons why Luo Xia and his friends chose this place to buy a villa. Because only the sky here is like the sky on Earth. As for other locations, the sky looks different from that on Earth. Luo Xia still remembers that when he went shopping with his mother and others, he saw a sky full of dreamy aurora in a commercial street. Let me talk about my sister-in-law Su Xin first. My sister-in-law gave birth to a child for my eldest brother Luo Feng. After that, she went back to school and started a business after graduation. Because she had Luo Feng and Luo Xia as her backers, Her entrepreneurial journey was smooth and she encountered no obstacles. All the powerful families on Earth wanted to get in touch with Su Xian and Luo Feng and Luo Xia. Later, after Luo Xia and Luo Feng brought back the virtual helmet, Su Xian felt that her career on Earth was not challenging, so she started a company in the virtual universe. Of course, the current business scope is only between Luo Xia and Luo Feng's territories. Previously, Luo Feng and Luo Xia received 200 planets as territories from the domain master Mingyu, so Su Xian's company business extended to these territories. The company's current development is pretty good. By the way, there is another thing worth mentioning. Talk about something. That is Su Xian's eternal love. In the original work, because Luo Feng and the golden horned beast seemed to have died together, the heartbroken Su Xian committed suicide and accidentally triggered the effect of eternal love, and since then gained a lifespan of 1000 epochs. But the price is that she can no longer practice. And now, because of Luo Xia's existence, Su Xian naturally did not commit suicide, and the effect of eternal love was not triggered, so she can still practice at this time. With the help of Luo Feng and Luo Xia, the family's physique has reached the level of God of War, and Luo Xia also taught his family the new gene energy practice method that he had realized a long time ago. This new gene energy practice method can absorb energy from the universe at all times, and they don't need to practice hard every day, and their strength will naturally increase. Naturally growing. Now Luo Hua's strength has reached the peak of the God of War level. Luo Hongguo has reached the strength of the intermediate God of War. Gong Xinlan is a primary God of War. Zhen Nan and Su Xian are also primary gods of war. Their energy is not on learning martial arts, so their strength progress is very slow. If Luo Xia and Luo Feng hadn't bought them all kinds of natural materials and treasures from the universe to nourish them, they might never reach their current strength in their lifetime. Like Luo Ping and Luo Hai, because they inherited the excellent genes from Luo Feng, they are only 11 or 12 years old now, and their strength has reached the planetary level. Especially Luo Hai, who takes Luo Feng and Luo Xia as role models all day long, has a great enthusiasm for cultivation, and his strength is slightly better than that of his brother Luo Ping. Xiao Hai and Ping Ping should be in the Wu Dojo, or in the virtual game. Luo Feng muttered. Hearing this, Luo Xia smiled and said, "Dad and Mom, I guess they are in the virtual game." Yes, they seem to like the kind of virtual game that is similar to the Chinese fairy hero, Luo Feng said. Luo Xia said, "When my parents were young, they watched more Chinese fairy tales. Moreover, we Chinese people have a concept of hero in our hearts since we were young, so we are naturally interested in such virtual games." After a pause, Luo Xia rested his head on his hands, leaned back in the chair, and said comfortably, "Let's go with my parents. I have spent half my life in fear and despair. Now it can be said that the bitterness has paid off." Luo Feng nodded and was about to say something when Luo Hua's voice suddenly came from the third-floor balcony of a villa in the distance. "Brother, Xiao Xia. You are back." Luo Xia waved his hand, and soon, Luo Hua ran over and asked excitedly, "How is it? How is the final result?" Luo Feng smiled and said, "The third brother took the first place, and I almost made it into the top 10. First? Top 10? Luo Hua's eyes widened. Having been in contact with people in the universe for a long time, he also knew what the genius selection war meant. It is definitely not an easy thing to get the first place and the top 10 in such a grand event. He was very happy and quickly contacted other people. Soon the whole family arrived. Even Hong and Lei Shen came. Oh, by the way, Hong has left with the Lord of Time and is now wandering in the universe. After thinking about it, Hong finally worshipped the Lord of Time Luo as his teacher. Everyone happily held a family banquet in the virtual universe. No, there were only Luo Xia's family, Su Gang's family, Hong's family, and Lei Shen's family. After the banquet, Luo Xia and Luo Feng also received an email from the Virtual Universe company. The email informed them that the company would come to Langxing to pick them up in 12 days. This time, they went directly to the headquarters and then went to the initial universe from the headquarters. Luo Xia and Luo Feng had 30 years of time to comprehend in the initial universe. However, because the time flow rate of the initial universe and the original universe is different, 30 years in the initial universe is 100 years in the original universe. In other words, if Luo Xia and Luo Feng say goodbye to their families this time, they will have to be separated from them for at least 100 years. Xioxia, Xiao Feng, are you going to be there for so long? Mother Gong Xinlan couldn't help but ask when she heard Luo Xia finish talking about the time of departure. Luo Hongguo also nodded and said, you guys have been here for a long time. Luo Xia said, so I have to leave my second brother and sister-in-law to you at home. Before my eldest brother and I leave, we will leave a lot of money. Don't waste it by then. Are there any treasures that can help you practice and improve your strength? Buy it directly. What he and Luo Feng were most worried about after being away for such a long time was their family. They were afraid that when they came back, their family members would be gray-haired and their lifespan would be short. That is to say, the universe is vast and there are many treasures that can prolong life. They can spend money to buy these treasures and give them to their families. For Luo Xia and Luo Feng, who received bonuses from Virtual Universe Company, they are not short of money now. Luo Hua nodded, I know. On the other side, Luo Feng is also comforting his wife Su Xian. After the family members calmed down, Luo Xia and Luo Feng followed Hong and Lei Shen to a mountain peak. 4 people stood on the top of the mountain, looking up at the sky. Hong suddenly said, Luo Feng, Luo Xia, do you want to hear the story of me and the God of Thunder? Luo Xia and Luo Feng nodded. Hong then began to tell what happened between him and Thor before and after the Great Nirvana. His voice seemed to have passed through the long river of time, sighing faintly, back then, in the Great Nirvana, I watched countless compatriots die, and watched the sad scenes happen one after another, and I understood that someone in the human race must stand up. It doesn't work without someone taking the lead. That person can be someone else. It can also be me. After understanding this, I continued to improve myself, and finally established the Extreme Martial Arts Gym to establish a competition mechanism and improve the strength of warriors throughout mankind. Hong looked at Luo Feng and Luo Xia, with the same smile on his face as when they first met in Jiangnan Pavilion. Now, the crisis on Earth is resolved. But our Earth is too weak in the entire universe. The internal crisis has been lifted, but the external crisis is terrifying and profound, and the competition in the universe is even more fierce. There are tens of millions of human races, but some races are enslaved. Why were they enslaved? It's not because there are no truly super strong people in their race. Their race is not strong enough. We humans on Earth are also facing this danger today. Fortunately, you 2 brothers seized the opportunity and rose up. This gave humans on Earth time and space to develop. Luo Xia, Luo Feng, you did a good job. Hong took a deep breath. If a human race wants to rise, especially when it is young, someone must stand up, there must be pioneers. You have barely managed to do this now, but genius does not mean strong. Thor also said at this time, although saying this puts a bit of pressure on you. But you 2 brothers are really carrying the entire Earth forward. If you fall, my eldest brother and I will not be able to protect the Earth with our current strength. Hong nodded, looked at Luo Feng and Luo Xia solemnly and said. So. Luo Xia, Luo Feng. The Earth will be supported by you for the time being. Thor God and I will work hard. As long as the 4 of us become stronger, in 10,000 years, the Earth will naturally give birth to strong men one after another. By then, the general trend has been established and the overall strength of the Earth has increased, and we do not need to rely on our personal strength. It's a deterrent. Luo Xia and Luo Feng nodded. They also know this truth. Next, the four most powerful people on the earth chatted a lot, about the future of the earth and about cultivation. Hong and Thor didn't say much and said their goodbyes quickly. Because they know that Luo Xia and Luo Feng still need time to truly say goodbye to their families. Reality, Earth. Rorschach's consciousness returned to its original form, and immediately after, he smelled the aroma wafting from the kitchen. "Mom, what are you cooking for something delicious? You and your eldest brother have to be away for such a long time, so I made a few of your favorite dishes. You can ask your eldest brother and the others to come over for dinner later." "Okay, I'll go right away." Rorschach got her mother's order and immediately walked to her eldest brother's villa. As a result, as soon as he approached the villa, he heard the sound in the villa. He looked embarrassed and hurried back home. Seeing that he came back quickly, Luo Hongguo asked, "Where are your elder brother and the others?" Luo Xia touched her nose and said awkwardly, "My eldest brother and sister-in-law are working on something." Luo Hongguo. Gong Xinlan glanced at Luo Xia and said, "Well, I won't call you big brother and the others, can your space ring hold these dishes? Then you can bring it to the spaceship and give it to your big brother." "No problem." Rorschach pretended to be serious and bowed. Gong Xinlan rolled her eyes at her younger son and returned to the kitchen to work. Rorschach looked at Melissa, who was not far away, and said, "Melissa, I can't bring anyone else with me to the headquarters of Virtual Universe Company this time, so I ask you to stay at home and take care of my parents." Melissa nodded gently, "Okay, Master." With the help of Rorschach, she has been promoted to the 8th level of Stellar level. "Practice the secrets I left for you," Luo Xia said. "If you don't understand anything, come to me through the virtual universe." For Melissa, who was completely controlled by him, Luo Xia was not stingy. Except for the core things that teacher Hu Yanbo did not teach Melissa, Luo Xia taught her everything else that could be taught. Melissa nodded respectfully, "Master, I will try my best." September 18, 2071. Luo Xia and Luo Feng took a spaceship to Balan Star. 12 days later, they saw an ancient, dark-colored spaceship that looked like a sword slowly descending from the sky. "We are leaving." Luo Feng turned his head to look at Difan, the universe level 9th level slave that Luo Feng and Luo Xia had bought specifically to protect the Earth. "When Xiao Xia and I are away, help me protect my family." "Yes, Master." Difan replied respectfully, watching Luo Feng and Luo Xia walk towards the quaint spaceship. The spaceship is about 600 meters long. About 100 meters wide. Thickness is also 100 meters long. Its appearance is very similar to that of a war sword, and it is all black. When you get close to it, you can feel the ancient atmosphere brewed by time on it. In the snow, Luo Xia and Luo Feng walked to the front of this ancient spaceship. Babata shouted, "This is Giyan Stone Mother." The F-class spaceship cast by Giyan Stone Mother. As she shouted, the hatch of the spaceship opened. A group of people flew out of the spaceship. The leader looked almost exactly like an Earthling. He was wearing a black battle suit, had an aquiline nose, a thin body, an old face, and a mark of ice and snow on his forehead. This old man just stood there, and he faintly controlled the surrounding world. Luo Xia and Luo Feng knew that the other party must be a world master recognized by the origin law of the universe. Xiaowu greets the two princes. The old man saluted Luo Xia and Luo Feng slightly and said, "Greetings, your highnesses." A group of domain masters and universe-level masters behind the old man also saluted Luo Feng and Luo Xia. Luo Xia and Luo Feng were slightly surprised. Luo Xia raised his eyebrows, a little puzzled, "Your highnesses." Xiaowu smiled and said, "There are many things that your highnesses don't understand yet. Please follow us on board. It will take 3 years to get to the company headquarters from here." We can't delay. Well. Luo Feng nodded. So a group of people, led by Xiaowu in front, and then Luo Xia and Luo Feng entered the spaceship. Inside the spaceship, there is a very spacious and luxurious hall. In the hall, there are comfortable sofas and tables. On the table, there are rare fruits and mellow wine. In the corner of the hall, there are beautiful maids waiting at all times. Tisk. Luo Xia sighed. Luo Feng looked around and said with a smile, "This place is nice." He and Luo Xia sat down casually on the sofa, then looked at Xiaowu, a powerful realm master recognized by the origin law, and asked, "Why does Mr. Xiaowu call us two brothers, Your Highness?" Xiaowu smiled and said, "Your Highness, please allow me to explain slowly. Let me introduce myself first. I am Xiaowu, a realm master in the company's core layer Apocalypse Secret Realm." Luo Xia and Luo Feng looked at each other, both of them were a little surprised. The company actually sent a realm master of the Apocalypse Secret Realm to greet them. Xiaowu continued, "There are very few core members in our company. To the extent that they are rare. To become a core member, there are normally only 3 ways. One is to get a top 1000 ranking in the Genius Battle. The second is to be an excellent elite cultivated within the company. The third is that a small number of realm masters are recruited by the company because of their own excellence." Luo Feng blinked, "A small number of realm masters." Xiaowu nodded and said, "Yes, because ordinary realm masters have basically no hope of breaking through to immortality, and some cannot even be recognized by the origin law, so the company cannot pay attention to them." He smiled and added, "Only the real elites, true strong men, can become core members of the company." Xiaowu looked at Luo Feng and Luo Xia, and continued, "As for why the 2 princes are called princes, it is because, among the 4 secret realms in the core layer, the Apocalypse Secret Realm belongs to the outermost layer. When the core members of the Apocalypse Secret Realm meet the members of the 3 previous secret realms, if the other party's strength is lower than the immortal, they will all be called princes." Xiaowu looked at Luo Xia and Luo Feng respectfully. Prince Luo Xia entered the original secret realm, which has the highest status. Prince Luo Feng entered the Taisha secret realm, which is also higher than the Apocalypse secret realm. Naturally, we have to call you 2 princes. At this point, the explanation is basically clear. Luo Xia and Luo Feng nodded, indicating that they understood. Xiaowu said with a smile, "Your Highnesses, please come with me into the virtual universe. I will take you to the virtual headquarters of my virtual universe company." Babata also said at this time, "Atuka and I have just obtained an authority. Luo Xia, you and your elder brother can directly teleport to the headquarters of the virtual universe company when you enter the virtual universe later." Luo Xia and Luo Feng looked at each other, and under the guidance of the maid, they entered their own rooms respectively, and then with the help of Babata and Atuka, their consciousness entered the virtual universe. The 2 brothers appeared in the villa on the Black Dragon Mountain Island almost at the same time. Then Babata and Atuka activated the program and carried out the transmission. So the 2 brothers were instantly transported to a special plane. This plane is the plane where the headquarters of the virtual universe company is located. This is a suspended mountain peak shrouded in clouds and mist. The mountain peak is extremely huge. Just by sensing it, you can find that the diameter and length of the mountain peak are larger than the average living planet. There are various streets and buildings on this mountain peak. Luo Xia and Luo Feng appeared on the street at the same time. "Your Highness." Xiaowu ran from a distance, calling Luo Xia and Luo Feng. "Mr. Xiaowu," Luo Feng responded with a smile. Xiaowu came closer and introduced with a smile to Luo Xia and Luo Feng, "Your Highness Luo Xia, Your Highness Luo Feng, this is the plane space where our virtual universe company headquarters is located. Compared with the headquarters in reality, this place is a little different. Be more lively." He paused slightly and then said, "After all, in reality, many big figures will not stay in the headquarters all the time. Luo Xia asked, Mr. Xiaowu, what is the name of the mountain we are on now? Your Highness Luo Xia, this mountain is called Yuxiang Mountain, with a diameter of about 89,000 kilometers, Xiaowu replied. Luo Feng was surprised, so big. The diameter of the earth is only over 10,000 kilometers. Xiaowu smiled and said, of course it has to be big, otherwise the area of many training venues will not be enough. In this Yuxiang Mountain, it is divided into 5 areas, namely, the original area, the Taishu area, the Tian area, the end of the world area and the public area. Each district is about the same size. Among them, the population of the original area does not exceed 120 people. Rorschach blinked. In other words, the number of places in the original secret realm does not exceed 120. This quota is really small. Xiaowu continued, there are more than 1,000 people in the Taishu district, and more than 10,000 people in the Tian district. The most populated area is the Doomsday district, with tens of millions of people. He looked at Luo Xia and Luo Feng. I would like to remind your 2 highnesses that members of the secret area cannot enter each other, but everyone can enter the public area. Luo Xia and Luo Feng looked at each other. Rorschach said, in other words, if I want to see my brother here in the future, I can only see him in the public area. Xiaowu nodded, yes, your highness. Thank you everyone for subscribing, tipping, and voting. Thank you very much.